President Paudel certifies 3 budget bills for coming fiscal year. Appropriation, national debt and finance bills receive approval. Government decides to immediately implement reports on loan shark cases. Home Minister holds first round of talks with victims in Bara. Monsoon incidents disrupt Nepal. 2 killed in the past 24 hours, 8 highways blocked. US-Iran tensions escalate after fresh strikes in Gulf region. Iran reports explosions near key ports as oil prices climb. UK joins EU-backed €90 billion loan support for Ukraine. New funding route to help Kyiv procure military capabilities. And Nepal enters quarterfinals of ACC Under-19 Women's Premier Cup with a 3rd victory. Also posts its 2nd highest Under-19 total. Good evening, I am Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World Prime Time News. We're coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere it's 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in detail. Nepal's President Ramchandra Paudel has authenticated 3 key budget-related bills passed by the Federal Parliament, paving the way for the implementation of the country's financial plans for the upcoming fiscal year 2083-84. The President certified the bills on Tuesday in accordance with Article 113(2) of Nepal's Constitution, according to a statement issued by the Office of the President. The authenticated legislation includes the Appropriation Bill 2083, the Bill to Raise National Debt 2083 and the Finance Bill 2083. The presidential approval marks the final constitutional step before the budget-related measures come into effect for the new fiscal year. Nepal's government has decided to implement recommendations from various commissions formed in the past to address cases of illegal lending practices, commonly known as loan shark or exploitative high-interest transactions. A cabinet meeting held at the Prime Minister's office in Singadarwar on Tuesday decided to immediately begin implementing the reports through the Home Ministry. The cabinet also appointed Maheshwar Bhakta Shrestha as the chair of Board of Directors of Nepal Airlines Corporation.
आज नेपाल सरकार मन्त्री परिषदको सम्बन्ध 2083 असार 30 गतेको मुख्य निर्णयहरू पढेर सुनाउँछु। पहिलो कृषि मन्त्रालयबाट छ। बिउ बिजन पहिलो संशोधन नियमावली 2083 स्वीकृत गर्ने। अर्को गृहबाट छ। सशस्त्र प्रहरी बल नेपालका विपद खोजदारमा खटिने कर्मचारीको प्रोत्साहन भत्ता उपलब्ध गराउने। अर्को शिक्षा तथा खेलकुद मन्त्रालयबाट छ। अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय प्रतियोगितामा पदक हासिल गरेका खेलाडी, प्रशिक्षक, सहायक प्रशिक्षक, फिजियो र व्यवस्थापकलाई नगद पुरस्कार तथा सम्मान पत्र प्रदान गर्ने। अर्को संस्कृति पर्यटन तथा नागरिक उड्डयन मन्त्रालयबाट छ। नेपाल वायु सेवा निगम सञ्चालक समिति अध्यक्ष श्री महेश्वर भक्त श्रेष्ठलाई महाप्रबन्धकको समेत र कार्यकारी अध्यक्षको पदमा नियुक्त गर्ने, महाप्रबन्धकको काम समेत गर्ने गरी। अर्को अनुचित लेनदेन मिटर व्यय सम्बन्धमा नेपाल सरकारको निर्णय बमोजिम विगतमा गठन भएका विभिन्न आयोगको प्रतिवेदन गृह मन्त्रालयले तत्कालै कार्यान्वयन गर्ने आजको प्रमुख 5 वटा निर्णयहरू।
Home Minister Sudhan Gurung held talks with a group of loan shark victims who have been marching on foot from Dhanusha to Kathmandu to press for the fulfillment of their demands. The Home Minister met the protesters in Nijgarh of Bara district after travelling there specifically to hold discussions with the group. The first round of talks on their 6-point demands was held at Nijgarh Chamber of Commerce and Industry Hall, according to participants. Both the government and the protesting victims are now preparing internally for a second round of discussions. Home Minister Gurung told the victims he would consult Prime Minister on their demands. The victims have demanded that all fraudulent documents linked to meter interest cases be declared invalid through a cabinet decision, the formation of a dedicated tribunal to address such cases, the return of confiscated property and investigations against lenders under money laundering laws based on complaints filed by victims. The victims began their foot march from Tilgachi in Dhanusha early this week, heading towards Kathmandu to draw the attention to their grievances. Lawmakers in Nepal's House of Representatives have raised concerns over issues including natural disasters, power shortages, road disruptions and public hardships. During Tuesday's session, MPs urged the government to take immediate steps to support flood and landslide victims, address fuel shortages in eastern districts and resolve prolonged power outages. Lawmakers also highlighted cases linked to road safety, displacement of affected families and demands for justice in alleged discrimination and police-related incidents. The House approved proposals to send two bills, the Nepal Special Service Act Amendment Bill and the National Service Corps Bill, to concerned committees for clause-wise discussion. Finance Minister Swarnim Wagle also tabled a bill to amend and repeal some finance-related Nepal acts. The next meeting of the lower house has been scheduled for tomorrow. Nepal's Vice President Ram Sahaya Prasad Yadav has departed for Qatar on three-day official visit to convey Nepal's condolences over the death of former Qatari Emir Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. During the visit, Yadav is scheduled to hand over a condolence message from Nepal's President Ramchandra Podal to Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. The Vice President is accompanied by senior Nepal government officials and is scheduled to return home on 16th of July after completing the visit. We'll take a short break here. More news coming up. Do stay with us. You're watching NTV World and this is Primetime News. Welcome back. 8 major highways across Nepal have been disrupted due to landslides and flooding triggered by continuous monsoon rainfall. The BP Highway, Kanti Highway, Mechi, Kali Gandaki Corridor, Mid-Hill Highway and several other road sections have been closed after landslides and river overflows. Authorities have advised people to avoid unnecessary travel and stay alert as rainfall continues. Meanwhile, Nepal reported 73 monsoon-related disaster incidents in the past 24 hours, including floods, landslides, fires, snake bites and other emergencies. 2 people were killed when a landslide buried a house in Kalikot, while 1 person remains missing. In eastern Nepal, 2 Nepal Electricity Authority employees died when their Scorpio vehicle crashed near Seuti Bridge on the Dharan-Itahari Road while they were heading to repair storm-damaged power lines. Police suspect overspeeding caused the accident. Officials have warned that ongoing rainfall may further increase the risk of floods and landslides nationwide. Children are becoming increasingly vulnerable to drowning to death in the Madhes region of Nepal, especially during monsoon. 3 children from a family drowned in a rainwater-filled pit in Sirahat district 2 days ago. The incident on Gol Bazar has raised concern over the safety of children as well as exposed the problem of unmanaged water-induced hazards, especially at construction and excavation sites. Correspondent Hiralal Chaudhary reports.
3 siblings died after drowning in a pit filled with rainwater at the Choharba Livestock Market in Gol Bazar Municipality, Ward 7, Siraha 2 days ago. Police have identified the deceased as 12-year-old Shabnam Khatun, 10-year-old Rubina Khatun, and 8-year-old Shaful Sheikh, all of the same family. The family originally belongs to Jinghawa 2 in Rohtahar district. Their father, Awash Sheikh, has been living in the area for several years, working as a scrap collector. According to the father, he had gone out for work when the incident occurred. The children's mother was occupied with household chores at the time.
पता न चलले बच्चा सके इससे पहले हर रोज नहात रहे गेले डूब गेले उ डूबले बा हमरा लड़का डूबले ओकरे बाद में तब ई छौरी फान ले एकरे बाद में उहो एक बार लड़की रहे उहो फान ले पकड़ेला तले सब सामान ये सरकार से नगरपालिका से हमरे खेती पुटकी चाहिए ना.
The pit where the children drowned had been formed after gravel was excavated during a local road construction project near the family's rented residence. Family members and local residents have demanded that the local government take responsibility for the incident and provide compensation.
रात 11 बजे खमने हैं नगर पालिका के गलती नहीं तो क्या कर गलती है एता का हमरा के इंसाफ चाहिए और कुछ नहीं चाहिए इंसाफ चाहिए
केटा घर में से 3 गो बच्चा अथि भ गेलेका मर गेलेका काल बने और केकरो बच्चा जा सके है ना तो ये रात खून का मतलब जैसे रोड बना देने हैं पूरे एकदम गहिर कर देने हैं.
घर के बगल में खुना है कि चौड़ी में खुना है चौड़ी में खुना है घर के पछाड़ी में खड्डा खुनल के एकरा एक छोट 3 बच्चा मरल एकर क्षतिपूर्ति कर देते.
Open pits that collect rainwater during the monsoon remain a reoccurring hazard in the district. Local governments have been urged to identify and secure such sites, particularly where excavation work is underway. Police say investigations into the incident are continuing. The tragedy has left one family devastated and raised fresh questions about safety oversight at construction and excavation sites during the monsoon.
Drowning of children to death has been one of the serious problems in Nepal in open pits, ponds and other waterlogged areas, especially in Tarai region every monsoon. Around 70% of these deaths occur in Madhya province, with most incidents taking place in ponds, lakes, rivers and streams with open access. Child rights advocates say parents, communities, local governments and state agencies must work together to keep children safe and prevent drowning during the rainy season. Sabika Shrestha along with Pawan Barsa Shah brings more.
Child drowning has emerged as a recurring tragedy in Nepal, particularly during the rainy season, as inadequate management and monitoring of ponds, water bodies, waterlogged areas, rivers and streams continue to put children at risk. According to the data, nearly 70% of drowning deaths in lakes and ponds occur in Madhya province, while Bagmati province records the lowest number. According to Nepal police statistics covering the 5-year period up to the last fiscal year, a total of 1,485 children lost their lives due to drowning across Nepal, of which 1,025 were boys and 460 were girls. A total of 429 children drowned in lakes and ponds, while 464 lost their lives in rivers and streams, making these the leading sites of drowning incidents. In addition, 9 children drowned in wells and 12 children died after drowning in septic tanks, highlighting the wide range of water-related hazards that continue to pose a serious threat to children's safety across Nepal. The data further shows that Madhya province recorded the highest number of child drowning deaths in lakes and ponds, with 239 fatalities over the 5-year period. Nepal police says several factors, including open excavation pits being left unmanaged, absence of protective barriers or fencing around ponds, lakes, rivers and streams, and insufficient parental supervision contribute to these accidents.
बर्खाको समयमा यस्ता घटनाहरू बढी हुने भएको कारणले त्यसप्रति सचेत रहन र सम्बन्धित निकायहरूलाई समेत समन्वय गर्दै खास गरी स्थानीय प्रशासन, स्थानीय निकायहरू, सरकारवालाहरू, यसमा खास जिम्मेवारी भनेको अभिभावकहरूले आफ्नो बालबालिकाहरूलाई ख्याल नगर्दाखेरि यस्ता दुःखद घटना घटेका छन् भने त्यसैगरी कसैले कुनै पर्पोजको लागि खाल्डो बनाइन्छ भने त्यो खाल्डोलाई अर्थात् त्यो खोला भनौं न त्यो ताल पोखरीलाई विशेषतः सुरक्षाको उपायहरू अपनाउनु पर्ने हुन्छ. त्यहाँ तारबारका कुराहरू हुन्छ, त्यहाँ चाहिँ सचेतनामूलक बोर्डहरू राख्नुपर्ने अवस्थाहरू हुन्छ. यस्तो कुराहरूमा विशेष ध्यान दिनुपर्ने कुराहरू हुन्छ.
Child rights advocates stress that reducing this risk requires higher vigilance and responsibility from parents, communities, local governments and all state agencies concerned to ensure children's safety during the rainy season. Sabika Shrestha, NTV World.
Moving on, the Supreme Court has ruled that the government's circular to stop public advertisements to private media outlets be annulled. A division bench of Supreme Court Justices Saranga Subedi and Nripthros Nirola has made the ruling in response to a petition filed on April 1, 2026, demanding annulment of the government's decision not to give public advertisements to private media outlets. According to Supreme Court spokesperson Arjun Prasad Koirala, the full text of the verdict is due. Advocate Anantaraj Luitel, on behalf of the Media Society, had filed a writ petition in the Apex Court stating that the government's decision to give government advertisements only to government media outlets was illegal. The government had decided to publish and broadcast government advertisements only through government media outlets and issued a circular from the Prime Minister's office. International news coming up next. For now, a short breather. Explosions have been reported near Iran's port cities of Bandar Abbas and Bushehr, according to Iranian state media, as tensions between Tehran and Washington continue to escalate following a night of strikes. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said it had targeted 2 UAE-linked tankers in the Strait of Hormuz and carried out attacks against U.S. facilities in Jordan and Bahrain. The UAE condemned the tanker attacks as brazen, saying an Indian crew member was killed and 8 others were injured. The U.S. military said it had conducted strikes aimed at reducing Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping in the region. Iran's state media reported that 3 people were killed in the attacks. Meanwhile, oil prices continue to rise, with benchmark Brent crude up more than 3% at $86.07 per barrel. U.S. President Donald Trump has said the U.S. military was carrying out very heavy strikes against Iran and had reinstated a naval blockade on Iranian ports. Speaking at the White House, Trump said U.S. forces were targeting Iran's offensive capabilities and claimed that Washington was in control of key waterways, including the Strait of Hormuz.
But we're hitting them very heavy tonight, as you know. We have tremendous amounts of ammunition. We have numbers that we haven't had in years. And we're hitting them very hard, and it'll continue, and we'll see what happens. But we're knocking out all of their offensive capability, and we're controlling the straits. We're putting the blockade back, and it's a blockade now.
Japan's Trade Minister Akazawa Ryosei has rejected the legal basis for imposing a mandatory fee on cargo passing through the Strait of Hormuz after U.S. President Donald Trump proposed a 20% toll on shipments through the key waterway. Akazawa said the International Maritime Organization recognizes the strait as a route for global navigation and that neither the United States nor Iran has legal grounds to introduce such a charge. Trump said the naval blockade on Iran had been reinstated and that the U.S. would receive a 20% reimbursement on cargo transported through the strait. China has also called on the United States and Iran to restore safe passage through the strait as fighting between the two sides reignited over how the strategic waterway should be managed. Britain has signed up to participate in the EU's €90 billion support loan for Ukraine, meaning UK firms will be able to provide more weapons paid for by the funds. Speaking at a coalition of the Willing meeting in Paris, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the decision creates a new route for Ukraine to procure capabilities and sends a very powerful message about European unity.
And I'm really pleased to announce today that the UK will participate in the EU €90 billion Ukraine support loan. This agreement will ensure that Ukraine continues to receive the military capabilities it needs most. It creates a new route for Ukraine to procure capabilities from UK industry, including ammunition, air defence systems and long-range missiles. And it sends a very powerful message about European unity.
Thai authorities are investigating if negligence was what led to the deadly inferno at a Bangkok bar late on Sunday, as survivors reported doors being locked and the lack of signage demarcating emergency exits. The use of flammable materials as decoration may have facilitated the rapid spread of the fire, which originated near the stage, according to police. The blaze has left at least 30 people dead and dozens more injured. First responders found many of the victims in the restrooms at the end of the bar, from where experts believe they tried to flee but could not. More than 70 people are injured, 24 of them critically. Preliminary investigations suggest the blaze was caused by a short circuit in an air conditioner, which quickly cut power throughout the bar. South Korea has issued its first ever emergency heat wave alerts under a new warning system as soaring temperatures continue to affect communities across the country. Residents in the eastern coastal city of Pohang have been facing extreme heat conditions with temperatures climbing to dangerous levels. Under the new system, an emergency heat wave alert is triggered when areas affected by a heat wave are forecast to have record perceived temperatures of 38 degrees Celsius or higher, or actual temperatures of 39 degrees Celsius for one day. Authorities have urged residents to take precautions against heat-related illnesses, including avoiding prolonged outdoor activity, staying hydrated and limiting exposure during peak daytime temperatures. The warning system was introduced this year as South Korea faces increasingly frequent and intense heat waves linked to rising global temperatures. More international news and sports update coming up next. For now, a short breather. The four-member crew of NASA's Artemis II mission has visited the European Space Agency headquarters in Noordwijk, the Netherlands, following their record-setting journey that pushed the boundaries of human space exploration. The mission achieved a new milestone by reaching a distance of 406,771 kilometers from Earth, marking the farthest point humans have traveled from the planet and drawing global attention. Artemis II Commander Reid Wiseman said the visit was an opportunity to recognize the module's role in the crew's journey to lunar orbit. Artemis II mission is part of NASA's broader Artemis program, which aims to return humans to the moon and establish the foundation for future deep space exploration. France held its annual 14th July National Day military parade in Paris, featuring a record deployment of troops and military equipment as European countries increase defense cooperation amid Russia's war in Ukraine. The parade, held along the Champs-Élysées Avenue and presided over by President Emmanuel Macron for the final time, brought together nearly 6,700 troops, 98 aircraft, 31 helicopters and 315 military vehicles. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky attended the event as a guest of honor alongside 24 foreign heads of state and government and hundreds of European troops participating in the ceremony. The event was the largest Bastille Day parade in the country's history, reflecting growing focus on defense readiness and European rearmament efforts in response to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Now, the annual swan count in the UK's River Thames has a recorded stable number of swans, but conservation officials have raised concerns over increasing pollution and litter threatening the bird's habitat. Chief Swan Marker David Barber said the results of this year's swan upping census was encouraging, with the population remaining steady. However, he warned that rising levels of rubbish in the river are putting young swans at risk. During the week-long survey, officials also encountered cygnets injured by discarded fishing equipment and other waste found in the Thames. Swan upping, a centuries-old annual tradition, involves counting and checking the health of swans along designated stretches of the River Thames. The event helps monitor the population and supports conservation efforts. And with that, we move on to sports update. Nepal has entered the quarterfinals of ACC Under-19 Women's Premier Cup with the third consecutive victory to top Group D. The team crushed Hong Kong by 181 runs. Chasing Nepal's strong target of 212, Hong Kong managed only 30 runs for 9 wickets in the full 20 overs. For Nepal, captain Soni Pakrin was outstanding, taking 4 wickets for just 4 runs in her 4 overs. Manisha Upadhyay claimed 2 wickets, while Krishma Gurung and Sinha Mahara picked up 1 each. Earlier, batting first after losing the toss, Nepal posted 211 runs for 6 wickets in 20 overs. Captain Pakrin led from the front with 90 runs off 60 balls, hitting 13 fours and a 6. Sabitri Dhami added 52 and Alisha Yadav remained unbeaten at 23. This is Nepal's second highest total at under-19 level and the highest in the ongoing tournament. Previously, Nepal had scored 213 against Kuwait in the 2024 Women's Under-19 T20 World Cup qualifiers. Nepal had earlier defeated Qatar by 105 runs and Singapore by 151 in the first 2 matches. Now, Norwegian football fans gathered to welcome their national team home after their World Cup campaign ended with a dramatic 2-1 extra-time defeat to England in the quarter-finals. Despite the disappointment of the narrow loss, supporters greeted the players with cheers, applause and pride, celebrating the team's run to the final stages of the tournament. The warm reception turned the team's homecoming into a celebration of resilience, with fans showing that the journey mattered as much as the result on the pitch. Norway's players thanked supporters for their backing throughout the competition as the squad reflected on a memorable World Cup adventure that ended just short of a semi-final place. For many fans, the heartbreak of the extra-time defeat was softened by the chance to welcome their heroes home, proving that football victories are not the only moments worth celebrating. Now, major international companies are using 2026 FIFA World Cup to strengthen their presence in China, rolling out localized products, marketing campaigns and fan experiences aimed at tapping the country's growing sports consumption market. Compared with previous tournaments, more global brands have partnered with China Media Group for World Cup coverage, including Budweiser, Adidas and Intel. The companies are promoting new products and brand initiatives through tournament-related campaigns tailored to Chinese consumers. It is said multinational companies continue to view China as a key growth market as demand for sports-related products and experiences expands, with global sporting events providing opportunities to reach consumers through localized marketing and new consumption scenarios. Before wrapping up, here's a reminder of our top stories this hour. President Podal certifies 3 budget bills for coming fiscal year. Appropriation, national debt and finance bills approved. Government decides to immediately implement reports on loan shark cases. Home Minister holds first round talks with victims in Bara. Monsoon incidents disrupt Nepal. 2 killed in the past 24 hours. 8 highways blocked. US-Iran tensions escalate after fresh strikes in Gulf region. Iran reports explosions near key ports as oil prices climb. UK joins EU-backed €90 billion loan support for Ukraine. New funding route to help Kyiv procure military capabilities. And Nepal enters quarterfinals of ACC Under-19 Women's Premier Cup with a third victory. Also posts its second highest Under-19 total. That's it for this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 20 to 100 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and also visit our website nepaltelevision.com for more information. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thanks for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Everest, I would say, is high, but it's easier to climb than Makalu. Makalu is a little bit technical, Kanchenjunga is very high. It's technical and it's isolated. Everest, you get internet on base camp all the time. Camp 2 is quite big. Camp 2 you get internet again. Now people even have internet on Camp 4. So I would say Everest is easier. It's higher, difficult for sure. But Makalu and Kanchenjunga are less climbed and they are definitely harder. Kanchenjunga was very hard. They have different challenges, but I think K2 is definitely more technical, more harder. So K2 has different challenges, but both mountains have different challenges. If I have to compare the two, one is K2 is more. I'm planning to climb Shishapangma in autumn because China sometimes doesn't give permits out. It's better to climb when the permits are being given. And I'm planning to climb Dhaulagiri next year in spring. I always take one Sherpa, and I climbed in Nepal mostly with Imagine Nepal, one peak with 7 summits. I always go with one Sherpa because I think it's safer. I mean, when I send mostly, I just keep going. I don't need anybody, but if any emergency happens, then it's better to have a guide with you and a local guide who knows the mountain. I'm strong enough. Sometimes I'm just going by myself. I do need oxygen, so they carry it. But I am a mother of 2 small girls, so I will not climb without the help of Sherpa. It's something usually mothers, like I haven't seen any young mothers on the mountain, so it's not, because it's not easy to leave your young kids. Anything can happen if you die, then who's going to look after the kids. But I have some sort of confidence. Maybe people will not agree, but I know I will come back down for my young girls. And usually people say, how can you leave your young girls behind? But when I'm on the mountain, I have a difficult moment. I think about my daughters, that my daughters need me, so I need to go back no matter what. So I put extra effort. I'm more focused just because I know I have 2 daughters home. So they've been my strength, not my weakness. I think collaboration is very important. Like you said, Pakistan and Nepal has most number of 8,000 meter peaks. We can learn a lot from Nepal when it comes to tourism because we are very behind. Your economy, you get in your GDP, most of the revenue comes from tourism, and we have beautiful mountains like Nepal, but we have very minimal revenue that comes from tourism. So we can learn definitely from Nepal, and the process is like everything. When we get to Nepal, when we get to base camp, to summit, back, and then out of the country, it's like I love the process in Nepal. We are very far behind, but we have tourism potential. So I think we can collaborate in that sense where we can learn from Nepal experience. I don't see many Nepalis in Pakistan, so I mean we should promote tourism of Nepalis also and Pakistanis coming also to each other's country. There's definitely room for improvement when it comes to collaboration between the 2 countries, and I know we love Nepali and Nepali also love us, so yeah, we need to make use of that. I think first time the process of coming in, because in Pakistan it was hard. Now it's improving. As soon as we come in, it was easy. People are really nice. I think most Nepali I met are nice, friendly. They know how to communicate, yeah, I think that was the best part, the friendliness of the Nepali people and the kindness. Hardship for me personally is being away from family. So Kanchenjunga, for example, I said is isolated. It's very far from connectivity. So not being able to speak to the family, for example, was the hard. I mean, nothing that I had no difficulty from Nepal itself or the people from Nepal, but just being away from family and emotional difficulty.
Experience has always been good. Nepali, if I say Nepali, I would say धेरै राम्रो छ. मलाई नेपालको टुरिज्म मेरो एक्सपिरियन्स धेरै मन पर्छ, खुसी लाग्छ नेपालमा. यस्तो घर जस्तो भएको. I have loved Nepal. This country has accepted me a lot, and it's a pleasure for me to be here always. If we talk about Nepal, I think it's more commercial, and I think the tourism in Nepal is like very fast in Pakistan, but now eventually Pakistan is growing as well. But if I compare Karakoram or Himalayas, Karakoram are more like steeper and more difficult, more technical to climb, and the specific region and the moving glaciers and everything that make them more difficult, especially the change of weather. So I believe that the Karakorams are more difficult to climb. I've seen a lot of Sherpas in Nepal, in Pakistan, who come to climb a lot of mountains. Mero sabai sathiharu Nepal ko every season they come to K2 and Nanga Parbat and Road Peak to climb that mountain, and they are one of the elite climbers as well. So, you know, in Pakistan there is much respect to the Sherpas. In Pakistan is to Sherpaहरू सबै धेरै मन पर्छ पाकिस्तानमा. यो जो सेम गर्दै जस्तो लाग्छ. मलाई त तीनवटा कन्ट्री त मन पर्छ. तिब्बतमा अलिकति गाह्रो छ, यसको पर्मिटको भिजाको अलिकति गाह्रो छ. अनि नेपालमा त इजी, पाकिस्तानमा इजी हो. मलाई त राम्रो लाग्छ. It's more like Nepal or Pakistan friendship expedition, something like that. And I think it's a great idea. It should be initiated. And we are up, me, Sarvaz, Naila, we are one of the Pakistani climbers, and yes, of course in Nepal there are a lot of climbers as well. So we can combine an expedition, we can launch it to Everest or K2, whatever it feels like.
I climb Nanga Parbat solo, also Broad Peaks. Then K2 I have one Pakistani climbing partner. Sherpa in last one day, just and Camp 4 to Camp 4, I use Sherpa. जिस कंपनी में मैं आया था उन्होंने कहा कि नहीं आप अकेले क्लाइंब कर सकते हैं, लेकिन विंड बहुत ज़्यादा है, लेकिन आपको शेरपा लेके जाना पड़ेगा. फिर आखिरी दिन वो शेरपा साथ दिया, तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह वो शेरपा के ने बहुत सपोर्ट किया. शेरपा ने भी, विंड भी बहुत ज़्यादा था, तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह समिट हो गया उस वजह से. इस माउंटेन इज़ नॉट डिफरेंट. मुश्किल वो भी है, मुश्किल ये भी है. यहाँ पे लोग कहते हैं कि माउंट एवरेस्ट बहुत आसान है, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है. यहाँ के जो लोग हैं उन लोगों ने काम किया है, इस वजह से यहाँ पे आसान है. अदरवाइज़ आप ख़ुद से, जिस तरीके से हमने क्लाइंबिंग की यहाँ पे, ख़ुद से अगर क्लाइंबिंग करें, आप अपना जूता खुद पहने, अपने लिए पानी खुद बनाएं, अपने लिए रूट खुद बनाएं, तो ये बहुत आसान काम नहीं है. क्योंकि मैंने देखा है एवरेस्ट के अंदर, एवरेस्ट का कैंप 4 तक, बेस कैंप से कैंप 4 से समिट इतना ही डिस्टेंस बराबर है. तो डेथ जोन के अंदर आप 6-7 घंटा 12 घंटा आप रहते हैं, आसान नहीं है. तो हर पहाड़ का अपना एक खेल है. जैसे K2 है, K2 के ऊपर एवलांच वगैरह होते हैं, आइस फॉल होता है, रॉक गिरता है. यहाँ पे ये नहीं होता, लेकिन उसके बदले में फिर इसकी हाई बहुत ज़्यादा है, बहुत ज़्यादा हाई है, और लंबा बहुत ज़्यादा है. तो इंसान है, बहरहाल वो क्या कहते हैं कि तकलीफ़ होती है हर जगह पे, हर पहाड़ का अपनी एक तकलीफ़ है. तो बहरहाल ये मेरे लिए बहुत अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस था. मैंने बहुत कुछ सीखा यहाँ पे नेपाल में आके, क्योंकि यहाँ पे जिस तरीके से लोग काम करते हैं, इवन बेस कैंप से लेके टॉप तक जो लोग काम करते हैं, अगर इस तरीके से अगर हम कोशिश करें पाकिस्तान के अंदर, अगर हमारे जो क्लाइंट्स हैं, इंटरनेशनल लेवल के जो क्लाइंट्स आते हैं, उनके लिए इस तरीके से प्रोफेशनल तरीके से हम अगर खिदमत करें, तो डेफिनेटली पाकिस्तान के अंदर भी बहुत ज़्यादा टूरिज़म आ सकता है. क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ पे एक पाकिस्तान के अंदर एक चीज़ की कमी है कि प्रोफेशनल लोग बहुत कम हैं. यानी जैसा माउंटेन गाइड्स है ही नहीं कोई, मतलब सरबाज वगैरह जो अभी जो नए लड़का है, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा अगर आने वाले 2-3 साल में ये एक आध होंगे. तो हमें इनिशियल स्टेज पे यहाँ पे किसी तरीके से हमें कोई ऐसा एक्सेस मिल जाए कि हमें कोई ट्रेनिंग्स मिल जाए, जिस तरीके से यहाँ पे लोग काम करते हैं, इसी तरीके से अगर हम पाकिस्तान में भी थोड़ा सा अवेयरनेस के साथ अगर हमें 1 साल की अगर ट्रेनिंग दे दे, तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हमारे लोग भी बहुत ज़्यादा तगड़े हैं. तो क्योंकि जो क्लाइंट जो है वो सर्टिफिकेशन देखता है, तो वो देखता है कि कितना ट्रेंड है और कितना मतलब इसके पास एक्सपीरियंस है. तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह एक्सपीरियंस तो हम लोगों के पास भी बहुत है, लेकिन सर्टिफिकेशन नहीं होने की वजह से मतलब फॉरेनर जो है जो हमारे ऊपर ट्रस्ट कम करता है, तो ज़्यादातर पाकिस्तान के अंदर भी नेपाल से जो शेरपाज है उनको लेके आते हैं और उनके ऊपर ज़्यादा ट्रस्ट किया जाता है, हमारे ऊपर ट्रस्ट कम किया जाता है.
I'm like it when someone says you looks like a Sherpa, or you say some or says you are like a Sherpa, you're like strong with Sherpa. I'm very happy because in this world, in this our climbing community, Sherpa is like brand. Yeah. So I'm very happy when someone says you looks like Sherpa, or you like Sherpa. Oh yeah, in 2021, in COVID time, he said, "Oh, Nepali or Pakistani passport." I said, "Oh, come on, man. I'm from Pakistan." So yeah, my look is like a Tibetan, and my mother from Skardu, and yeah, I climbed my first 8,000 is Nanga Parbat with Sherpas. So maybe Imagi is the first K2 Winters summiter. And I'm lucky I climbed with Imagi my first 8,000. Even I start my climbing career with Sherpas. So till now I think 90% of my 8,000ers are climbing career with Sherpas. So most of my climbs with Nepali Sherpas in Pakistan, Nepal, and in Tibet, China. Like Tikcha, like this, yeah. Yeah, I feel when I come to Nepal, I feel like my second home, to be honest. And all Sherpas, even 80% of Sherpas, they know me. They know me. And I have a good relation with Sherpas, they respect. I think who are living in the mountains, almost same culture, same honesty, and yeah, little bit food is a little bit different, but yeah, I think who are living on the mountains, connect with nature, so both are the same, but so we need to extend our seasons, like autumn. We have good autumn and spring also, but we have no qualified climbers, guides, so we need to work on this, and then yes, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, because when I start my climbing career in 2016-17, and I climbed my first 8,000er Nanga Parbat, that time I announced Mission Summit 14 without oxygen. But later on Annapurna, Kanchenjunga, and Everest, the last part, I feel the weather was very bad and strong winds. I use oxygen. So I repeat this year these three peaks, like K2 in last year, Annapurna and Kanchenjunga this season. So I'm very happy. This is the big, I think, in adventure tourism, like in climbing. You can say it's a FIFA World Cup, like when you are climbing without oxygen, without Sherpa. But we help. We need without Sherpa's help. You can say without Sherpa. So without oxygen, I complete my Mission Summit 14 and become first Pakistani. This is not for me or not my family. It's this record for whole Pakistan. So I'm feeling very proud. To be honest, after 8 years, after 8 years, I complete my big dream. I think this is sometime when I remember my all past and my climbing career, I feel very different because I came as a kitchen boy, as a porter. I worked as a kitchen boy 6-7 years when I was in college. So after 8 years, when I complete my Mission Summit 14, it looks like a dream. It looks like of course different experience because it's involved weather, it's terrain, But it's most difficult is of course Kanchenjunga and Annapurna here in Nepal, in Pakistan K2 and Nanga Parbat. So every peak have different terrain, different hardness or its difficult level is. Manaslu is like I think easiest mountain in Mission Summit 14, like in Pakistan G2 and Manaslu in Nepal is easiest. Sometimes it's like 2 years, 3 years ago, the BKO launch came and even our team, 3 Sherpas injured. Sometimes it's mountain is mountain. We can't fight against the nature. Like sometimes happen. Every mountain is like difficult level is different. But sometimes easy. You can say this is easy, but it's like you remember in Shishapama. Last year in 2023, big accident there, and Gina from US, Anna, and one of the Lama, one of the best climber in Nepal, we lost. Sometimes it's happened like this. If you have manpower, Annapurna first. Between Camp 2 and Camp 3, you can't understand what happened. When you are climbing between Camp 2 and Camp 3, sometimes your breath level is like, I can't explain because I climbed 2 times, so I feel inside. So I climbed 3 times K2, but I think in Pakistan we have very strong climbers, but like trainings, even in here in Nepal, I think 3-4 big like NNMGA, IFMGA, like this institute. But in Pakistan, till now, single person we have not certified, IFMGA certified. But I think in Nepal, 80 plus IFMGA guides. So we need collaboration with Nepal or like Norway. So we need to establish some good institutes, schools, training schools. Then hopefully we have in future we improve in climbing and in tourism department. Nepal is like really they make good rules and regulations for tourists. What you need, is freedom. Everything is available. Every year more people. I saw more climbers visiting Nepal, and more ability like IFMGA guides. More every year like 5-6. So this is a good sign for Nepal to boost adventure tourism in Nepal. In starting days, I faced very difficult because I have no sponsors. But Migmaji, again, Migmaji is like my brother. He helped me a lot, and if I'm here this time in Nepal, and I knew because of him, he's helped like his brother, and Alhamdulillah, I hard worker, and God give me a opportunity and give me success one by one, and now I am here. And after my 6th peak, I got first sponsors. Local sponsor from Pakistan. Then till now I have because before 6th I visited 2 times in Nepal. Once Manaslu, once Lhotse. So that time Migmaji gave me an opportunity to come to Nepal and climb with my company, and I already 2 trainings from here, me and Abdul Joshi and Suhail from Pakistan. So in future, yes. But now I am getting old. So my plan is like this. I want to introduce IFMGA in Pakistan, the most important thing. We have no single one, IFMGA certified single one. So we need to establish some schools, some training centers. And I work with as a guide. It's different question. I think so. I don't like even too much branding, but I work as a ground level to establish one school and more people to involve in climbing, because we have potential. We have 5,000 or 6 and 7,000. Even in Pakistan, unclimbed peaks also. So I want to try to establish one good school and yes, I have some. I already start my book. So yeah, we are thinking about also a documentary, good documentary, not like maybe 20% little bit up and down, but 80% I want to try natural, not like fake. Good friend, my partner, Saad Munawar, is just 3 days before he climbed from north side, Everest. He's the first Pakistani to climb from north side. From north side. So yeah, he's nice writer also. So we together.
So from
you know, when humans are approach and interfere in the nature, yeah, there was. But we need to clean, because the you saw nowadays last 3-4 years climate change, like you don't understand what happened on whole. But we have big glaciers. The most affected areas, I think, in Nepal and Pakistan, because we have big glaciers like Siachen, Himalaya here, Siachen, Baltoro, Biafo. So we need to protect also our glaciers.
Pakistani climbers today here, and this is also a shared heritage of Pakistan and Nepal, that out of 14 8,000ers, 13 of us, 13 we share between us, and K2 in Everest, you can see on the plaque that is also on the right on my wall, that we share this heritage. And recently I also congratulate Nepal for holding Sagarmatha Samvad, which highlighted that ecology and the mountains' fragile ecology is not a given, and we need to do something to protect it. And in doing so, I think we celebrate our climbers, and we also celebrate those who are preserving it and the geography of the region. Climbers, some of them are here, they can also join them, and then they can have a joint expedition both to K2 and Everest.
Votekosi and Trisuli river rafting. Rafting has lately been gaining popularity among tourists. The adventure sport, which previously was popular only among foreigners, is now drawing the local tourists as well. Trisuli and Votekosi rivers that are close to Kathmandu are two popular destinations for rafting in Bagmati province. Let us first explore Votekosi. Whitewater rafting at Votekosi river is included among the 10 best adventure destinations for rafting in the world. Votekosi, which is well facilitated with food and accommodation, can be a great destination for rafting and other adventure sports. Rafting at Trisuli river is popular among domestic tourists, as the location can be reached in an hour from Kathmandu. This is where most tourists go for rafting in Nepal. Rafting packages of Votekosi and Trisuli are appropriate for those who want to spend some good time for a few days.
Hello there and welcome to this new episode of NTV World Insight. Our focus for today is the largest internal organ in our body, that is liver. Today we are accompanied by Professor Dr. Ramesh Singh Bhandari, the surgeon leading Nepal's liver transplant program. Over the next 40 minutes or so, we'll try and cover how livers fail, when transplantation becomes necessary, how the procedure works in Nepal, what are the costs for it and accessibility, the outcomes and complications, and what patients and families need to know to make an informed decision. Dr. Bhandari, welcome to Insight.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah. Thank you.
Let's begin with what liver is and why is it important?
The number of function it does is rarely comparable with any other parts, other organs or parts of our body, except like our brain. We sometimes, as a liver surgeon, we sometimes call it as a factory house of our body, human body. Multiple functions, briefly, common ones. The first thing is what it makes is it makes a lot of proteins, like our antibodies, which are proteins which are required for our immunities, to protecting from infections and various other harmful objects in the body. Besides that, we call it coagulation factors. That means whenever there is bleeding, it has to make clots and stop bleeding anywhere in the body. And after that, it excretes from the body the harmful subjects or chemicals or bioproducts that are produced inside the body, in the liver and body. It excretes through the bile, through the intestine. Next is, it also helps in storing things, like glucose. Commonly we know it, that whenever we are in starvations, we are not eating, then it's the liver which supplies the glucose for some time. Besides, there are a lot of elements, microelements, that are reserved in our liver, and whenever we need it, whenever we have a prolonged scarcity of those, then the liver can keep on producing it, feeding the body. And besides, the other important part of the liver is the digestion. It secretes bile, it goes into the intestine, and which helps in digesting food materials. So these are usually common ones, but if I keep on explaining, it will take a whole day to explain you the whole function of the liver.
How common liver failure or liver issues are globally and in Nepal?
It's very common, quite common, in comparing to the worldwide data or our own data, what we have seen. There are many common problems, but the severity, the types of problems, they vary from very, simple or which is easily curable to very complex problems. So the one which comes to me, I'm a surgeon, so I operate on patients with liver problems. So most of them are surgical problems, like patients who have liver cyst, which needs to be resected. They can form stones in the liver. Besides, I think the commonest problem, major problem that I see is the cancers. The cancers of the liver itself, and the cancer from the whole body can metastasize to liver, which needs to be resected. And these are very common things that I see because I work in the tertiary liver hospital. And besides that, what we frequently talk these days is the chronic liver disease. They actually go to our hepatologist and gastroenterologist, but those who need transplants, who needs the new liver, then they are referred to us. So besides that, there are many other minor problems. I would say we don't call minor if any problem is there in the liver, but still it's easily curable as one as well.
So what types of liver failure have we so far observed?
Okay, so we can divide these liver failures into acute and chronic. So the chronic ones, that what we frequently see is the disease process takes a long time to develop, and then subsequently the liver functions get deteriorated and they start producing symptoms, and ultimately we have features of all the liver failures that we can discuss later on. So the common ones that we see is due to alcohol, hepatitis B, C infections, and besides that, this is a new term. It's not new actually, the fatty liver disease, what we kind of discuss in next few minutes time. And the next acute liver failure means the patient actually is normal. 6, 7, 8 weeks back, the patient is completely healthy. The liver is totally healthy. There has not been any insults in the liver. Then suddenly there is some insult, maybe infections, some drug poisoning, or any other insults, which can then rapidly deteriorate the function of the liver, and then patient can land up with the features of liver failure. That what we call as acute liver failure. At the end, when we call acute liver failure, in fact, the symptoms are similar. The symptoms of liver failure, we can discuss that, are similar. But the duration of the disease, the time course it takes is like, that's what makes it different from acute and chronic. And the main other difference is the outcomes and management as well. So most of the chronic liver disease, when they develop liver failure, features of liver failure, usually they require the liver transplant. They require a new liver. But a lot of acute liver patients may be treated medically and without surgical interventions, and only a small portion of those patients who develop acute liver failure may require transplants.
For cases triggered by maybe infections like hepatitis B or C, it shows up in a few weeks' time.
Yes.
In case of chronic liver failure, what is the common age factor that you have observed?
It can appear at any age. Even a child can develop features of chronic liver disease. It depends upon the etiology, what causes that liver failure. But in an adult, the commonest cause that we have encountered these days is the alcohol, long-term abuse of alcohol, and Hep C infections, and the prolonged fatty liver disease. So the common age where that patients present to us is between 40 to 60. You know, they start taking alcohol or have their infections in their early 20s or 30s, and next 10, 15, 20 years time they damage their liver, and then subsequently they develop all these features. So commonly it's between 40 to 60 that we encounter these patients, but having said that, they can come after 60s as well. And in children, usually what we call as those who have problems inborn, in utero they have infections. There are some genetic factors as well. Some genetic disease, that means there are certain elements or some enzymes or elements that are deficient in the body, and that leads to the damage of the liver, and then subsequently all the features of liver failure and require transplants, or even some vertical infections, what we call as from maternal to the child. Even the baby can get those infections, and these kids will require transplants. The other is there are some birth defects. Birth defects doesn't always mean that what we see. So the defects can be within the liver as well. So one common birth defect that we see is there is a failure of development of these biliary ducts, bile ducts. So when they are born, initially they can handle it, but as the toxic material, the bilirubin that is produced, cannot be excreted from the body because there are no bile ducts which can take it into the intestine. So subsequently this keeps on accumulating, and the baby has developed all the features. So by 1 year, 2 years time, these babies are sick. So it depends upon the age as well.
Apart from the genetic aspect of the causes, as we discussed earlier, alcohol seems to be one lifestyle choice that triggers liver failure in a long run. But alcohol is also a big part of our social and cultural life globally, and especially in Nepal as well. How much alcohol is okay if you want to avoid liver failure?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Everyone asks me this, and honestly speaking, although it's the use, as you said, is worldwide. There is no one that it's very small number of people may not use alcohol. Okay, maybe in different forms and different ways. Honestly speaking, there is no safe limit of alcohol. So although books can say in different units, if you consume this much of unit for this much of time, you are more likely to damage the liver. But what I see is it's like sometimes what we call as like idiosyncratic reactions. That means your body doesn't know on what amount it will react. Okay, so even a small amount of drink frequently can damage the liver. But if you are lucky, you are taking a substantial amount of alcohol for a long time, your liver may still be healthy. But if you take frequently excessive volume for a long time, then it's 100% sure that your liver is going to get damaged. It also depends on various things. Suppose you drink once in a while, once in a week or 2 weeks time, but you equally exercise, you also control your diet, you take care of your dietary habits. If you have diabetes, you have all in control. Okay, maybe it can nullify the effect of the damage caused by the alcohol. And especially in females, there is one enzyme, alcohol dehydrogenase enzyme. So that helps in metabolizing the alcohol that we intake. So that's deficient, weak in females. So if you and me drink together, the same amount of,
amount,
yes, will damage your liver more likely than mine. So there are so many things that can, you know, play around how the alcohol damages the liver, but straightforward to say no amount of alcohol is safe to drink. We as a physician or surgeons cannot recommend anybody that, okay, this much of alcohol is safe to drink. Okay, it's upon the individual's, you know, risks to take it or not take it.
While the moderate amount might differ person to person,
exactly,
women are more susceptible.
More yeah.
What kind of symptoms should people be wary about if whether they need to get a diagnosis?
What we talked is that chronic liver disease. So these all you know, factors, the one alcohol, as I said, even hep C infections, fatty liver disease. The problem with these you know, these etiologies is in the beginning of the, you know, disease process, patient may not have any symptoms. Okay, so the liver is being damaged. There is ongoing damage in the liver, but clinically patient may not have any obvious symptoms. So many times we just miss it. So by the time they present to us with symptoms, usually it's a very evident liver disease. That means the liver disease is already at a very significant phase. So when it becomes reaches that phase, and then it's quite, I mean, easy to detect that the patient has developed liver disease. The common symptoms they develop at the, you know, during the chronicity is that there's a less protein production from the liver, so which means there will be swelling of the body. You know, your body will swell with what we call as in ascites, your leg, there will be edema, swelling of the body. Besides, you know, we form abnormal vessels in our GI tract. So from there they start bleeding. So they can have bleeding from the mouth, they can have bleed their stools.
GI tract, you mean intestines?
Intestine, especially in esophagus. They develop abnormal vessels which can easily rupture. We call them as varices. That's very common in these patients. So they bleed, they can bleed in the stool, they can have this bleeding in the vomiters, or they can have small minor cuts and they can have prolonged bleedings. Next is, as the course gets damaged, they start having jaundice, the yellowish discoloration of the eyes, and then it progresses to involve the whole of the body. And if it gets more severe, then patients start developing features of encephalopathy. That means even the brain is affected because the toxic material that's produced is not being excreted from the body. It accumulates inside the body, and that produces the effect. So people, initially their sleep pattern is damaged, but later on they might you know, start talking very abnormally, and may have, you know, fits, and at time and again they can be unconscious as well. So that's very, you know, unfortunate about these liver disease problem, that when they start developing these symptoms, actually it's already late. So in between, you know, it's very difficult to figure out whether the patient is having liver disease or not. But yes, there are some subtle signs sometimes, you know, we can see. And any, you know, suspicious patients, how we find it then means, so if the patient has hep C infections, if we know the patient is, I mean, the individual is a chronic alcohol abuser, we know that there is obese, possibility of having fatty liver disease, okay, he has diabetes, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia. So in these group of individuals, we can do frequent, you know, I mean, physical checkups, the blood checkups, and then we can have an idea whether how the liver is functioning or not.
When we talk about alcohol and health deterioration, oftentimes alcohol and smoking come in pair.
Yes.
Does smoking have any correlation?
Yeah, lot. So it's a very interesting fact that the alcohol and smoking have a very synergistic effect. So what alcohol damages, if you add on smoking, it exaggerates. No matter any part of the body, it's not just specific to any. Alcohol more damages the liver, smoking damages more to the lungs. But when you have combined these both, the effect is even more dangerous. So liver disease can be exaggerated by adding smoking. It's just not related with liver disease only, you know, any cancers. There are a lot of cancers in the whole human body that when these two are combined, the effect is very much exaggerated, and the patients can develop these cancers as well. So it's very dangerous combinations.
Now let's move on to the tests. Once patients show symptoms and they reach hospitals, what tests are performed to confirm that there is issue in the liver?
Okay. So what we usually do is to see the function, I mean the liver status of the liver. We have various enzymes that we check, what we call as liver function test. And in that we look for bilirubins, which is one of the products which is excreted by the liver. So if the liver is being damaged, then there will be increase in bilirubin. No matter what's the cause of the production of the bilirubin, there is a rise in bilirubin. That may be one hint, the rise in bilirubin. But good thing is, whenever there is rise in bilirubin, there is always some yellowish discoloration of the eyes. So you can make out from the physical examinations. But not all patients may have high bilirubin. As I said, in the initial period, when liver is still functioning, some part is now being damaged, but the overall function is still maintained. So in those cases, the early changes we see is in liver enzymes. So any physician or a surgeon who is looking after liver can tell you that, okay, there is your liver enzymes are getting abnormal, like what we call as SGOT, SCPT. These are very specific enzymes. We sometimes call it as alkaline aspartates, ASTs, and the other gamma GT enzymes. So their level starts increasing. That's the earliest features we can pick up on the blood. So any abnormality on these enzymes, we have to be very cautious. And patients may not have symptoms, but we tell that there is some abnormality in enzymes. Sometimes even viral infections or some medicines that you have taken might also increase that enzymes, but it should not be taken very lightly. So what we usually do is any rise in these enzymes, we follow these patients. In next 2 weeks time, 4 weeks time, we again check these enzymes, and we see how these enzymes keep on increasing. If they are increasing, then it's a concerning. We need to evaluate further. Whether we might sometimes even need to take liver biopsy to prove that there is ongoing damage in the liver. So that's how we, these are very simple ways to do, but there are nowadays so many other complex, more complicated tests as well, which is not always necessary. We can always start with the simple ones, and then slowly we can progress.
And that perhaps pushes me to the next question.
Yeah.
What warrants a liver transplantation?
Okay. So liver transplant is the extreme. So when the patient, individual has damaged the liver completely, and there is no chance that it is coming back. So that means structurally also the liver is damaged, and the function-wise also it's all gone. So whatever the functions that I explained, now it's not doing. Okay. So, but still there is some minor function that it's doing. That is why patient is alive. But before it completely fails, we try to find out that phase. Now the patient is going to completely fail if we don't transplant. That's how we do it, and based on various our investigations, when we have various criteria that can guide us, okay, this patient needs urgent transplant, or in 2 months or 3 months or 6 months time. So we figure out from those formulas. We have those very good, predicting formulas. We use that, and then based on that, we tell patients that now your liver needs to be transplanted. So we have various criteria like male criteria. We have child classifications. These are more of surgical and medical terms, very maybe difficult for a layman to understand it. But there are ways, and these all depends upon the blood parameters and symptoms. Suppose I said, if patient is having severe jaundice, the bilirubin is very high, patient is already having abdominal distension because the fluid is being accumulated in the body, and he's having frequent bleeding from the mouth. To 4 gram, we call it as for an adult is a safe dose. That means 1 tablet is around 500. So up to 8 tablets in a day, maybe say we can have 1 gram tablets as well. So 4 gram, we call it safe. But anything more than is very above the safety limit. But if you take more than 8-10 grams, then you're more likely to have a liver failure.
Acute
liver failure. So that means you have a perfectly normal liver, but that can damage the liver, and within few weeks time, your whole liver function goes on. So that's the acute liver failure. So in those group of patients also, it's very difficult to say, as I said, in acute conditions, the liver is such a good organ that it can regenerate and come back to its full normal, the insert phase. But it's very difficult to find out which patients are going to recover and which are not, which are going to fail. So for that, again, there are so many criteria, our medical terminologies, So based on that, we try to decide, okay, this patient cannot come back with medical treatment, needs transplant, and we decide on that. So that guides us in, offering transplant in patients with acute liver.
And what types of transplant options are available globally and in Nepal?
So transplant basically for any organs, so whether it's a kidney or liver specifically. We have one is living donor liver transplant. The other is what we call as cadaveric transplants. So what we need to understand is in the Western developed nations, I was trained in Australia, so there 99% are all cadaverics. In the UK, US, 95 are cadaveric programs, and 5-10% are living donor programs. In our part of the world, in Asia, and India and Nepal, we have just started, I would say. Even in Japan, in Korea, they are doing a big number of the transplants, but 90% are living donor. So that's the difference, living donor and cadaveric. So these are two types mainly. So living donor means it's been given by your, mostly relatives, a healthy adult, preferably the same blood groups, and within the the legal criteria. Cadaveric means it's a misnomer actually. Cadaveric means it's not a dead person. Okay, so many people think that you can retrieve organs from dead people. It's not dead people. So cadaveric is actually brain dead people. So we have patients in ICUs. Okay, suppose a patient had a severe head injuries, his brain is dead, but rest of the organs, including liver, kidneys, they are all functioning well. So we know that after brain death, then how do we know brain death? Is we have tests again. So our neurosurgeons, our critical care specialists can find out whether the patient has developed brain death or not, following the criteria. So once we declare a patient is a brain death, then that chances of coming back of that patient is 0. So before that patient, after the brain death, so after some time, maybe on hours or days, even other organs will start deteriorate and get damaged. So before that happens, we take those organs from these people, and then we transplant it to those who need it. So that's called cadaveric liver transplant or cadaveric organ transplants. So that's usually spooled for your liver, kidneys, pancreas, intestine, even skins, bones, tendons, like that.
And when we talk of this, there are a lot of speculations of organ trafficking as well. There's an ethical angle to it too. What policies are in place in Nepal to safeguard one from these dangers?
Okay, that's a very important, I think, issues and concern. Fortunately, it's very in transplant program. I think the kidneys started back in 2000 process. That sometimes makes our transplant procedure bit that delays things also, but that's very necessary. So they have to go through that. So once that committee decides that okay, the patient, the donor who is going to donate to the patients are legally related and they are fit within the defined criteria. So after that only then we start the process of all the evaluation, investigations, and about the donation and transplanting. So it's quite strict in our country, at least in government hospital. That's what I have seen. Now, especially in liver, I don't deny that it can never happen, but because the procedure itself is so complex, the donation process, the surgery itself is so process, and we try to get the best possible, graft or the donated liver. So that kind of possibility is very rare. Even someone wants to do it, even they escape from these legal provisions. It's very difficult someone to do this kind of things in liver transplants. Kidneys, we have heart, like I said, in our neighboring countries, but a good legal provisions and a very strict criteria to to scrutinize and to check. Got to be very, I think, strict on this. So otherwise the impact of those things can, rather than the good or better effect, I think there are more negative effects of ignoring all these things. So I think it needs to be strict.
So you support existing provisions as it is?
Yeah, as long, I think this is just a beginning. In fact, liver transplant has just started. We can discuss the numbers. So maybe in future when the number increases, the volume increases, there may be some provision and when our system is very strict and it's quite clear. There is no confusions on these things. Maybe we can amend those legal criteria. Like in the US, there are two countries I know, US and Singapore. That's what they call as altruistic donors. That means anybody can walk into the hospital and can donate to unknown people. So your friends can donate like that. But they have a very strict policies. The regulatory bodies are very strict. It's very transparent. There are chances of foul play in Singapore and USA. It can happen, but it's very unusual, very rare. So as long as we don't reach up to that stage, I think what current legal provisions are made, and for a country like us and the system we have, I think, to me honestly, and this is my personal opinion, it looks okay for now.
I think you also touched upon the supply and demand gap with this answer. Who can donate based on maybe their physicality, relation, age factors?
First thing is legal factors that I said. So the legal factors, the government, our legal committee, it's a well-defined criteria. So from close relative, father, mother, sister, in-laws, brothers, sisters, there is a fixed criteria. So I can't remember whole of those criteria. So anybody interested,
immediate family members.
Yeah, besides immediate family members also, it has been expanded. So there's a wide spectrum of these defined relationship who can donate. So it's available in our hospitals, in any transplant centers they have. So anybody can go through that. So first they have to fit in that. So once the legal committee says that, okay, they are close relatives, then we take into medical considerations, medical factors. So usually, so it has, the first thing is the donor has to be an adult, that means more than 18 years of age. And we prefer for liver within 55 years. More than 55 years, we try to not to take their liver, because even though liver may look good, because as the age increases, the liver itself has become, the older ones. So there is
the regenerative factor probably diminishes.
Yes, exactly. So as the age increases, our organs also get old. So the regenerative capacity, the function it is being performing may have been reduced. It's very difficult to predict that. So if you take an old liver, the function, that graft liver, that the donated liver may not perform that we would expect. So the best is between 18 to 50 years. And we prefer to have a same blood group. So if it is A, we give it to A. If it is B, we give it to B. But very interesting is the blood group O is a universal donor. So that means O can give to anybody. So if you don't have, suppose A blood group doesn't have a A donor, so they can have from O blood groups. So it's U, O is, and if you are AB, you are lucky, you are a universal recipient. So you can receive from any of these blood groups. So that's very interesting. So after checking the blood groups, now next is we see if they have, we do CT, MRI of the liver. And the first thing we see is whether the donor can we divide the liver of that donor into two parts or not, how complex it is. Okay, so although liver seems to be one big organ, but the God has created in such a way that it can be divided into two parts. So there are two separate, vessels going into the liver and coming out of the liver as well, to separate biliary systems as well. So because we have through the decades and centuries of learning, our ancestors, scientists, they have known that the liver can be divided into two parts safely. But in some patients, the anatomy is so complex, it's very difficult. It may, put the donor's life at risk. So we don't prefer those kind of donors. So once we feel safe that it can be divided, then we further analyze. Then what we see, if the donated part, how much the donor can donate, and if that donated part is adequate for the recipient or not. Okay, based on the weight, we calculate the weight. Normally we say that the donated liver should be 1% of the recipient's body weight, 1% of the recipient weight. So we can go up to 0.8 as well. That's a very safe limit. Now, if that donated liver is adequate for the recipient, then we check the remaining liver. After donating, how much liver is remnant in the donor, and we see if that remnant liver in the donor is adequate for the donor's safety or not. So usually what we say, a person can donate around 60-65% of his liver safely. So there should be at least 35% of the liver remaining with the donor itself. So if that is clear, if they fit in this criteria, then we move ahead. Okay, legally the donor is fine, the anatomically the donor is fine, the weight-wise the donated liver is okay for the recipient, the remnant liver is okay for the donor. Then we do his all head-to-toe physical examinations. We want to see if there is any other diseases that can contradict the donor going for major surgeries. Okay, like hypertension, diabetics, which are controlled. We usually prefer not to have these, but in case sometimes there is no good donor, then we also take these. These are relative contraindications. But we try to see other relative, like if the patient has severe cardiac disease, severe lung disease, if they have any past cancers or any other diseases which is prohibiting them to go for major surgery, then we avoid them. So once these are all clear, then we decide, okay, next, now we can proceed for surgery and donations and the recipient surgery.
What does the success rate look like, and what causes rejection if it does?
Okay, so transplant for a donor, to speak with the donor, it's also a very complex surgery. Taking out someone's liver, taking half the liver from a body is a big surgery as well. But the good thing is we have been through it. We have undergone trainings, all team members for many years. And for other liver surgeries, other liver diseases, we have been doing similar kind of liver surgeries for many years. And so that knowledge and skill can be extrapolated in doing this donor surgery. So all the accessories, the instruments, all the supporting system we have has made this liver surgery very safe. So for donor, I think people say that standard is it has to be 99.9% safe. Nothing can be 100%, but it should be close to 100%. The donor surgery should be safe. And now the main issue is the recipients. Recipient surgery, the global standard we say is it has to be 90-95% success. That means if you do 100 patients, you may lose 2-3 patients on table or in an immediate post-operative period, and another 5-6 patients in next 1 year time. So many people put a standard as like 90%. If 90% of the patients transplanted can survive for 5 years, then that meets a global standards. So, and now for us that you're asking, I think it's too early for us to say, compare ourselves because it's just been 26. Although we started back in 2016, it's just been 26. But the good thing is we have also compared our data with the initial 2025 outcomes from other centers who also started like us. And it has been within the standard values. We have lost 3 patients due to our surgical procedures. They have developed complications. They could not stand the surgery.
This is out of how many patients?
26.
26.
Yeah, 3, but otherwise all of patients they could come out of the surgery. But donor surgery is so far touch wood, that's been 100% safe, and that's our very important concern. And we tried, as I said, the liver transplant, living donor liver transplant program depends upon the safety of of course, the safety of the recipients, but safety of the donor. If there is any issues with the donor, in many centers, even in developed nations, because there were problems with the donor, the whole program has been stopped.
Post-surgery, what factors would trigger or cause rejection?
Okay, so rejection is among one of the, like you pointed out, is one of the known complications. Any organ you put inside someone else's body, it can reject. That's a normal physiology. But the good thing is most of the rejections are minor rejections. That means the liver does not, the body does not accept it easily, so it can have minor reactions. The major rejections can also occur, but to prevent that, luckily we have many good drugs. So what we give as immunosuppressants. We start from the intraoperative period. As soon as we put that graft liver inside the body, we start giving those immunosuppressive agents. So because of these new drugs, very complex and very expensive drugs, the rejection rates now I can say is very minimal, very nominal. Those rejections which appear can we easily treat. So we had like in 26, 1 or 2 rejections we had, but almost all of them are treated. So most of these acute rejections that what develop immediate period, so it is very difficult to diagnose in the actually, we diagnose them based on the liver function test, and we can treat them. In the long run also they can get rejections. But I would say, if you do 100, I think 2-3 patients will develop rejections. Now again, those patients also you can control those rejections.
When you say immunosuppressant agents, it sounds like the immune system of the patient will be compromised.
Yes.
Do you think there are side effects to these?
Yeah, of course, like you very nicely pointed out. So you're giving a high dose of these immunosuppressants, multiple drugs. We give at least 3 important drugs to suppress the immunity. So that's given to prevent the immunity, but definitely any drugs has side effect. So the main side effects of these immunosuppressant drugs in the immediate period and also in the long run is the body's immunity is suppressed, so they are at risk of developing infections. So even infections, minor infections, that's what we call as like for you and me, it could be a minor flu infections, minor viral infections, minor, we could say the bacterial infections, but in these patients, the same infections will be with a great severity. So they are very prone to develop infections, and so the infections can be very severe in comparison to a normal human being. So that's a risk, yes. That's what we explain in the immediate period, that even the minor infections can kill them. So they have to be very careful about these infections. So to prevent that also, we have mechanisms. So we put them on prophylactic antibiotics as well, drugs, to prevent those common infections that can occur in these individuals. So these days we're lucky to have those kind of antibiotics and other drugs that can prevent these infections.
And how long do the patients have to consume these medicines?
Okay, so immediately after transplant we start multiple drugs. So among them important one, as I said, as immunosuppressants, that various, and then all these various antibiotics to prevent infections. So first few months are very crucial, okay, in both rejection as well as infections. So in one hand you are preventing rejections, you are giving so many drugs. On the other hand, that immunosuppressants can cause poor immunity and then infections. So first few months there are a lot of medications, but gradually as the liver recovers, because the new liver it takes some time to completely start working. So as the new liver starts working normally, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks times, then we slowly start decreasing the drug doses. Like in 2 to 3 months time, we decrease one of the immunosuppressant. Initially 3 we can reduce to 2, and then next 1 year to 12 years time, then again we can decrease another immunosuppressant. So in the long run, most of the people are in only one immunosuppressant. So, but they usually have to take it for lifelong. Lifelong, that immunosuppressant. Antibiotics also, first few months we give as a prophylaxis, and then after 3 months, 6 months, depending upon, we stop these antibiotics. But in between any issues, we start these antibiotics immediately. We don't wait for like in other individuals. So in a long run, it's usually 1 or 2 drugs. Mainly the immunosuppressants, single or 2 immunosuppressants, but they have to take that for lifelong. But so many other medications that we give, that slowly we can taper them and stop. That doesn't mean that all these drugs are continuing for lifelong. So it's not that difficult for people to manage. So we have seen patients like even our first transplant 2019, it's 27 years now, he's fit and fine, just taking 1 or 2 these medications and he's doing all well.
Now let's talk about accessibility. How accessible is liver transplant services in Nepal? How many surgeons, specialists do we have, and how costly is the procedure for common Nepali people? Also, I want to add on this, because we are a little pressed on time. Are there government schemes to support the financial aspect of liver transplant?
So the first question regarding the accessibility, it's very easily accessible now, although it's in the very highly specialized tertiary level hospital. In government, it's in TU Teaching Hospital. In Bhaktapur Human Organ Transplant Center, they had started in 2016, but I think it's been infrequent now there. But we are doing frequently in TU Teaching Hospital. And there are some private hospitals also, KIST, Medicity, and KMCs, although they are not doing so frequently. They are bringing Indian teams or teams from abroad and getting it done. But I proudly can say that in Teaching Hospital, it's our whole Nepalese team we have been doing on our own. So it's regular and it's accessible. But in contrast to what I'm saying is, not many people are being referred to us. We just discharged 4 weeks back 1 transplant, and now we don't have a list to perform transplant. So the reason why I come and give you these interviews is to tell people that you can come to our hospital and get transplanted here. We are providing this service and it's regular. So now what you're trying to ask me is, it's only centered in capital city. It's not available outside. I think it's too early to talk like that, because this is a very highly complex procedure. It needs highly skilled manpower, which needs to be done in a tertiary level hospital. Maybe in future then you can expand it. For many years to come, I think it has to be done in Kathmandu, in a very high tertiary level hospitals like teaching hospitals. There are many transplant, I think, who have taken license as a liver transplant surgeons, but it does not only depend upon a surgeon. You need a whole team. It's a big team you have to prepare to run this program. So at least in few of these hospitals, they're available. At least in our hospital, teaching hospital, we'll have complete setup. These surgeons, physicians, anesthetists, the ICUs, the critical care, the IR specialists. We are a full team, and we can perform at least 2 to 3 transplants in a month. In a month, but we are not getting that many patients to do it. Regarding cost, this is very expensive, and I'll tell you, when we start counseling to the patients, first thing we ask is whether you can afford or not. If they can afford, that's the contraindications. So from 26 patients data, what we have seen is minimum of 25-26 lakhs to maximum between 35 to 40 lakhs of expenses from the evaluation, operation to discharge. That the total cost is that much. It's not about the operating cost only. Actually, surgical cost is not, surgical cost is around 5 lakhs only. But the cost of whole thing, from evaluation, investigations, drugs, post-operative management, everything, the cost is around between 25 to 35 lakhs. So it's all beared by the patients themselves. Till now, just so far, there has not been any support from anywhere. We have been lobbying for it. We have been requesting the government. And the kidney transplant, the cancer patients, they are receiving some subsidiary, some support from the government. For liver transplants, not yet. But I hope, I have been hearing that from coming fiscal year, I think they are making some provision to support the patients who need liver transplant as well. For now, there is no support.
And what good practices have you witnessed abroad in international practices of supporting patients financially? I
think developed nations, it's all taken care by the government. So the transplant procedures, they are very expensive ones. And so it's all, in Australia where I was staying, the patient doesn't have to pay anything. So it's all by government. In the US, I think everywhere in most of the developed nations, the whole transplant is taken care by the government themselves. So they reimburse, the hospital does the transplants, and all the cost is reimbursed by the government. I heard that in India, I don't think that's being done. In Sri Lanka, they have just started transplant a few years back, and I had a friend, we had a chat, and they said it's all been covered by the government. Yeah, covered by the governments. So for now, not yet been done. So if that would be done, then I think it will be very, not just easy for the patients themselves, I think it will be much helpful for us to run this program and sustain this program in the long run.
Very quickly, before we conclude, how many liver transplants have you performed in your career?
I've been a part of, like in Australia, around 150 transplants. That I didn't do it, but I was part of it. And besides that, I've been in US for a third time. So around 150, I would say I was a part. But I myself have performed now 26. Within that 26, 17 are the one that has been done independently by my leadership.
Okay. Which was the most complicated case that you witnessed?
I think all transplants are equally complicated. It's very difficult, Every transplants are nightmares.
Have you ever had to seek for external support?
Within these 17, not. So previous 9, we did it with the support. So far, for this next 17, we haven't asked for any help.
Do surgeons avoid operating their own relatives or close ones?
It's been said that you should not operate on your closed ones because there's a chance that you may get anxious during the surgery, So it's better not to operate, but close, not very close, distance relative we have operated, but we wouldn't, agree or I wouldn't encourage anybody to operate on the very close and keen ones. So.
Top 5 things that one should do to avoid liver issues?
Avoid alcohol, avoid poor dietary habits, avoid not doing exercise, avoid unnecessary medications. What else?
Those are 4. I think it also applies to the don'ts as well.
Yeah.
What is one myth about liver that you'd want to bust?
Liver, that's what I was to say, is cadaveric donors. Not dead people can donate. This is a wrong misnomer. So it's a cadaverous means it's a brain death. It's not a dead people. So that's a big myth.
What single practical action would you ask every viewer to do right away to protect their liver?
Okay, I think good exercise. So make sure that you are not obese. If you have diabetes and hypertension, these are all can be treated and controlled. Take care of these things. Don't drink. Even if you drink, make sure that you nullify that effect with exercise and other good dietary habits. And if there are any issues, like if if you're obese or having any issues, any problems, then make sure you check your liver. They are very easy these days, easily available, labs and clinics where you can check your liver functions.
Dr. Bhandari, thank you so much for your time and your insights.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you too, as always, for staying with us. We hope today's conversation has added to our understanding of how and why to take care of our liver. We'll return with a new area of study in the next episode. Stay with us on NTV World. Until next time.
कसैले पनि अब व्हीलचेयरमै चाहिँ बन्जी गर्नुभएको छैन।
अहिले चाहिँ आई एम भेरी एक्साइटेड।
रमाइलो
यस 2 1 बन्जी।
डिफ्रेन्ट आइडियाहरू हुन्छ हाम्रो, जस्तै अब खुट्टामा लगाएर नर्मल जम्प गर्नुपर्ने, उहाँहरूले चाहिँ हामी बडीमा मात्रै लगाएर जम्प गराउँछौँ।
लेट्स गो।
This is the story of Dilip Sapkota and Sisir Dahal, two wheelchair daredevils who challenged their physical limitations by jumping nearly 200 meters. They weren't just attempting a bungee jump, they were making history by attempting a bungee jump in their wheelchair. The location was the famous The Last Resort, offering adventurous thrill over Bhotekosi River in Sindhupalchok district of central Nepal. From the launch pad, a suspension bridge over the river, a free fall 160 meters down the gorge. This bridge had been the launch pad for the courageous and adventure seekers for years. But on this day, the jump was not just about adrenaline rush, but also about defiance, about breaking the barriers. Dilip, a fierce advocate for inclusive tourism, has spent years pushing boundaries, paragliding, ziplining, even bungee jumping without a chair.
म अपङ्गता भइसके पछाडि म आफूलाई कसरी रिफ्रेश बनाउने त, म आफै चाहिँ कसरी ह्याप्पी हुन्छु भनेर आफैले आफैलाई बुझ्दाखेरि चाहिँ मैले घुम्दा ट्राभलहरू गर्दा एडभेन्चरहरू गर्दा अझ म बढी आफै खुसी भएको पाएँ। अनि त्यस पछाडि चाहिँ मलाई बन्जी, मैले प्याराग्लाइडिङहरू गरेँ। प्याराग्लाइडिङहरू गरिसके पछाडि बन्जी पनि गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने लाग्यो अनि मैले बन्जी गरेँ। बन्जी गरेपछि होइन अब यो बन्जीलाई पनि एकचोटि व्हीलचेयरमा पनि बन्जी गर्नुपर्छ हैन। नेपालमा म चाहिँ अपङ्गता भएका साथीहरूले चाहिँ एडभेन्चरकोमा चाहिँ अलिक पछाडि देखिने, उहाँहरू खासै त्यति धेरै एडभेन्चरहरू गर्नलाई, त्यस्तो खेलहरू खेल्नलाई डराउने, यस्तो हुन्छ उस्तो हुन्छ भन्ने उहाँहरूको चाहिँ मेन्टालिटी पनि थियो र त्यो मेन्टालिटीलाई पनि चिर्नुपर्छ। मैले यो सकिन्छ, हामीले पनि खेल्न सक्छौँ, गर्न सक्छौँ र एउटा चाहिँ समावेशी पर्यटनलाई पनि यो एउटा वकालत पनि हुन्छ। नेपाल सरकार लगायत सम्बन्धित निकायलाई यो वकालतको पनि एडभोकेसी पनि गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने उद्देश्य राखेर मैले चाहिँ बन्जी गरेको।
Sisir, an agricultural entrepreneur living with spinal paralysis, has turned his challenges into advocacy.
म अनेस्टली भन्नुपर्दा यो चाहिँ पुरै अनप्लान्ड नै हो हैन। जति पनि मेरो लाइफमा म जति पनि एडभेन्चर अथवा उ गर्छु हैन, त्यति धेरै प्लान गरेर चाहिँ गर्दिम भनेपछि गर्दिम भन्ने टाइपले चाहिँ यसको लागि चाहिँ म विशेष धन्यवाद हाम्रो दिलीप सरलाई म दिन चाहन्छु है। उहाँले मलाई थाहा नै नदिकन ल आज जाम भनेर भन्नुभयो। मैले आज भोलि हामी बन्जी जम्प गर्दैछौँ भनेर हिजो दोलालघाट आइपुगेपछि, हामी काठमाडौँबाट हिँडेको मान्छे दोलालघाट आइपुगेपछि थाहा पाएको। सो अब गरौँ न त, आइसक्यो भनेर चाहिँ हैन एउटा अनुभव पनि हुन्छ लाइफमा। हामी जस्तो अपाङ्गता भएको व्यक्तिले पनि गर्न सकिन्छ है भन्ने टाइपले हैन। अनि त्यहाँबाट अरूलाई मोटिभेट गर्नलाई साथसाथै अब आफ्नो पनि एउटा रिफ्रेसमेन्टको लागि चाहिँ अब आज हामी बन्जी जम्प गर्न जाँदैछौँ।
Together, the goal was clear: to inspire thousands and redefine what people with disabilities can achieve. A wheelchair bungee jump was no ordinary feat. It demanded innovation, precision, and absolute commitment. The team designed a secure rigging system, checked every bolt and knot, ensuring the wheelchairs and harnesses could withstand the extreme forces.
सेटअप अब खासै त्यस्तो डिफ्रेन्ट त होइन, उहाँहरूको अब स्पेसल अलिकति समस्या भएर त्यो अनुसारको सेफ तरिकाले गर्ने अर्को डिफ्रेन्ट आइडियाहरू हुन्छ हाम्रो। जस्तै अब खुट्टामा लाएर नर्मली जम्प गर्नुपर्ने, उहाँले चाहिँ हामी बडीमा मात्रै लाएर जम्प गराउँछौँ। सो खुट्टामा चाहिँ केही पनि प्रेसर पर्दैन, ढाडमा पनि कम प्रेसर पर्छ। सो त्यसरी गर्दा चाहिँ उहाँलाई एकदम कम्फर्टेबल हुन्छ। अनि प्लस अब उहाँले अब तल गएर तान्नुपर्ने हुक गर्नुपर्ने कुराहरू हुन्छ, सकेसम्म उहाँहरूले ट्राई गर्नु भएन भने हामी एकजना रेस्क्यु स्ट्यान्ड बाई हुन्छ। अनि त्यसको लागि चाहिँ हामी अलिक प्रिपेयर गरेर गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। अब सेफ्टीको हिसाबले अलिकति डिफ्रेन्ट तरिका चाहिँ अपनाउनु पर्यो हामीले।
This was not a stunt. It was proof that adventure can be made accessible.
34औं अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय अपाङ्गता दिवस हो। सो यो अपाङ्गता दिवसकै दिनमा चाहिँ के एउटा चाहिँ एडभेन्चर गरौँ हैन। अब कसैले पनि अब व्हीलचेयरमै चाहिँ बन्जी गर्नुभएको छैन, त्यसको लागि पनि एउटा चाहिँ पहिलोचोटि गर्दै हेर अरू साथीहरूलाई पनि एउटा चाहिँ इन्करेज गरौँ भन्ने चाहना हो खास।
At the edge of the platform, silence fell. Dilip rolled forward first. The count began.
Happy International Disability Day, all of you.
A symbol of confinement transformed into a vessel of freedom, probably the first ever wheelchair bungee jump in Nepal.
Promax bungee!
खासै अहिले चाहिँ पुरा म नर्मल चाहिँ एकदम चिल भएको छु हैन। अब यहाँ हामफाल्दाखेरि चाहिँ कस्तो हुन्छ म हामफालिसकेपछि अनुभव सुनाउँछु। अहिले चाहिँ आई एम भेरी एक्साइटेड। आई एम गोइङ टु डु समथिङ फर माइसेल्फ हैन। आई एम गोइङ टु डु माई फर्स्ट बन्जी अफ माई लाइफ। सो आई एम भेरी एक्साइटेड।
Then came Sisir's turn. With equal determination, he embraced the drop.
Well, let's go.
His leap cemented the moment, not a solo feat, but a shared victory.
रमाइलो यस उहाँले आर यु रेडी भन्नुभयो। मैले ठिक छ म रेडी भने मैले आँखा चिम्म गरिदिएँ। अनि त्यसपछि ठ्याक्कै उहाँले 1 2 3 जम्प भन्नुभयो। उहाँले पुस गरिदिनु भयो मलाई। म पुस गरेको आँखा चिम्मको चिम्म तल पुगेपछि ठ्याक्क त्यो डोरीले तान्छ नि, तानेर माथि आएपछि त्यो समय चाहिँ मैले यस्तो फिल गरेँ कि म बाँचेँ हैन। मसँग अब चाहिँ सबै चिजहरू मसँग फेरि पनि छ र मलाई चाहिँ एकदमै आनन्द त्यो टाइमको त्यो 2 सेकेन्ड 3 सेकेन्डको एउटा चाहिँ ह्याप्पिनेस, एउटा त्यो रिफ्रेस, एउटा त्यो फिलले चाहिँ एकदमै ह्याप्पी दियो क्या मलाई। इनर्जी भित्रदेखि मसँग भइरहेको सिद्धिरहेको एउटा चाहिँ इनर्जीलाई ठ्याक्क दियो। त्यो झर्दाखेरिको चाहिँ मेरो माइन्ड पुरै रिसेट भइदियो जस्तो भयो क्या। केही पनि छैन, म एकदमै निलो, एकदम निल, मसँग केही पनि छैन, रित्तियो सकियो। मैले सबै चिज छोडिदिएर म झरिसकेको थिएँ, हाम फालिसकेको थिएँ। तर पुगेर ठ्याक्क तानेर ल्याउँदाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो एउटा मुभमेन्ट चाहिँ मेरो लाइफको चाहिँ एकदम इन्जोयफुल मुभमेन्ट हो, जसले चाहिँ मलाई चाहिँ आजको दिनसम्म अझ धेरै उत्प्रेरणाहरू जगाएको एउटा मुभमेन्ट हो। त्यो मुभमेन्ट चाहिँ मेरो लागि एकदम मेमोरियल पनि छ।
Dilip and Sisir's jump was more than a thrill. It was a loud scream demanding change, a call for accessible tourism.
एक्सेसिबिलिटी कै कुराहरू हुन्छ के हजुरको। जस्तो अब मैले पोखरामा प्याराग्लाइडिङ गर्दाखेरि, कायाकिङ गर्दाखेरि हैन, अप्पर मुस्ताङ चाहिँ हजुरको चाहिँ त्यो अफ रोड गाडीमै जाँदाखेरिको कुराहरूमा चाहिँ अलिकति एक्सेसेबल, अलिकति हामीलाई चाहिँ पहुँचयुक्त चाहिँ ठाउँहरू भएदेखि अलिकति सजिलो हुन्थ्यो भनौँ न। अब यो झोलुङ्गे पुलहरूबाट गरिन्छ हैन, त्यहाँ चाहिँ हल्का ऱ्याम्प के जस्तो व्हिलचेयरकै लागि पनि एउटा स्ट्र्याप राख्दाखेरि त काठको एउटा भनौँ न त्यो फ्लोरिङ जस्तै टाइपले गरिदियो भने त हेल्प गर्ने, असिस्ट गर्नेलाई पनि सजिलो हुने अनि हामीलाई पनि सजिलो हुने चाहिँ हुन्छ।
The United States has intensified its military campaign against Iran, carrying out fresh strikes on targets it says are aimed at weakening Tehran's ability to threaten commercial shipping in the Gulf. It came as U.S. President Donald Trump vowed to continue military operations and restore a naval blockade of Iranian ports. Explosions have been reported near the Iranian port cities of Bandar Abbas and Bushehr, while Iranian state media said 3 people have been killed. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed it struck 2 UAE tankers in the Strait of Hormuz and targeted U.S. military facilities in Jordan and Bahrain. The UAE condemned the tanker attack as brazen, saying 1 Indian crew member was killed and 8 others were injured. Speaking at the White House, President Trump said U.S. forces were striking Iran very hard, claiming they had significantly degraded Tehran's offensive capabilities and regained control of the Strait of Hormuz.
But we're hitting them very heavy tonight, as you know. We have tremendous amounts of ammunition. We have numbers that we haven't had in years. And we're hitting them very hard, and it'll continue, and we'll see what happens. But we're knocking out all of their offensive capability, and we're controlling the straits. We're putting the blockade back, and it's a blockade.
He also said the waterway would remain open despite continued fighting.
And the strait is open. It will be open. We've cut down their capability very substantially, but they're going to fight for a while. That they don't have any military. There's not a thing they can do about it. All they have is fake news, because they have the fake news, would rather see us lose the war than win the war, which is really treasonous in a certain way.
The latest escalation has heightened concerns over global energy supplies, with Brent crude oil prices rising more than 3% to above $86 a barrel as markets reacted to the growing tensions in the Gulf. Meanwhile, Israeli Foreign Minister had said Israel is prepared to move ahead with 2 pilot zones in southern Lebanon, expressing hope that talks with Lebanese officials in Rome will help advance the initiative.
Well, we are ready to move forward implementing these 2 pilot zones. I hope and tend to believe that this round of discussions in Rome will promote it. We have all the goodwill to strengthen what was established on Washington, D.C. on June 26. It's historic, it's important, it's the only way forward, and we will demonstrate goodwill in Rome.
He also added that Israel will demonstrate goodwill during the Rome negotiations as both sides seek to ease tensions along the border. The European Union has condemned threats against the International Criminal Court after the United States vowed to expand sanctions against the tribunal. EU spokesperson Anwar El Anouni said attacks or intimidation targeting the court, its elected officials, staff, or those cooperating with it are simply not acceptable.
Attacks or threats against the court, elected officials, personnel, or those cooperating with the court are simply not acceptable. And let's also recall that the ICC does not target sovereign states, nor does it constitute a threat to their sovereignty.
The remarks came as Washington intensified its campaign against the ICC, while the EU reaffirmed its support for the court, stressing that the tribunal prosecutes individuals for serious international crimes and does not threaten the sovereignty of states. As governments gathered for the high-level political forum on sustainable development at UN headquarters in New York, President of UN Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, Lok Bahadur Thapa, has called for stronger international partnerships and concrete action to accelerate progress on the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Thapa said the forum would bring together evidence, innovation, and national experience to strengthen partnerships, deliver practical solutions, and build political momentum for implementing the 2030 Agenda.
Through the high-level political forum and these high-level segments, we bring together evidence, innovations, and national experiences and turn them into a stronger partnership, practical solutions, and political momentum for implementation. Hope is not strengthened by words alone. It is strengthened when commitments become actions, when principles become policy, when international cooperation delivers tangible results, and when people see progress in their daily lives.
Opening the ministerial segment of the forum, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warned that global progress on the SDGs was falling behind as conflicts, climate change, and economic pressures continued to undermine the development efforts. He noted that only 36% of the 139 measurable SDG targets are on track or making moderate progress, while 15% have regressed.
Our mission is clear: to accelerate progress at scale and speed, by investing in the proven tools of poverty reduction, from education to universal health coverage, energy security, and adaptive social protection systems, by adopting policies that promote decent work, gender equality, and technological access, by grounding progress in human rights, and protecting our planet through climate action, biodiversity, conservation, and a just transition to renewable energy.
Addressing global conflicts, Guterres reiterated his call for ceasefire in Gaza, Lebanon, and the Gulf region to be fully respected, while urging adherence to the international law, including the protection of navigational rights and freedoms.
The ceasefires in Gaza, Lebanon, and the Gulf region must be fully reestablished and respected. And the exercise of national navigational rights and freedoms in accordance with international law must be respected.
Also addressing the forum, President of the UN General Assembly, Annalena Baerbock, urged countries to remain committed to the 2030 agenda despite mounting global challenges, calling for continued international cooperation and the sharing of successful development practices to accelerate implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yet, as the President of the General Assembly, I'm calling on you to keep your optimism in this institution's ability to deliver, to choose hope, to choose action every single day. And all the more, to never let cynics weaponize our shortcomings to claim now that the SDGs overall irrelevance. And that is why my call to you, echoing the Pact for the Future, is this: keep working together. Keep believing that we are better together, especially in these fragmented times. Share your best practices in advancing the SDGs. The solutions are all out there, and they are being implemented. Choose building the momentum we need to deliver for the people we serve.
The United Nations High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development is reviewing progress on the 2030 Agenda and identify measures to accelerate implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals amid mounting global economic, environmental, and geopolitical challenges. Days of heavy rainfall have triggered severe flooding and landslides in Bangladesh, killing at least 50 people and stranding more than 1 million. The disaster has also heightened the risk of public health threats, including waterborne diseases like dengue and cholera. With more than 10,700 water and sanitation facilities damaged, restoring access to safe drinking water and delivering essential relief items to those affected remains the top priority. The floods have compounded an already challenging humanitarian situation. Since March, Bangladesh has been grappling with the measles outbreak, with nearly 750 confirmed and suspected measles-related deaths. The IFRC, which has been responding to the outbreak, says its relief efforts are now being stretched even thinner by the floods and other concurrent emergencies. Efforts to deliver aid have been stalled by flooding across 7 districts, including Chadgaon, Cox's Bazar, Rangamati, and Habiganj. In Cox's Bazar alone, more than 180,000 people have been impacted by the disaster. The city is sheltering some 152,000 Rohingya refugees who have fled fighting between the Myanmar military and rebel forces, according to non-profit watchdog Human Rights Watch. The refugees live in makeshift shelters on steep deforested hillsides, which are especially vulnerable during the monsoon season. Cradling a young black kite in his hands, a wildlife officer gently stretches the chick's wings before checking its breathing and hydration levels. The bird is one of dozens brought to the Margalla Wildlife Rescue Center in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, suffering from dehydration, heat stroke, and exhaustion as soaring temperatures take on urban wildlife. Inside the rescue center, staff work around the clock to cool overheated birds, administer fluids, and provide sheltered spaces where they can recover before being released back into the wild. Rescue teams said they have seen a steady increase in the number of birds arriving during periods of extreme heat, with young chicks and birds of prey among the most vulnerable. Pakistan, one of the countries considered most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, recorded its second warmest year in the past 65 years in 2025, according to the government's 2025-2026 economic survey. This summer, temperatures in Islamabad have climbed above 40 degrees Celsius, placing additional stress on wildlife already coping with habitat loss and urbanization. Unfazed by crashing waves along the coast, 72-year-old Wu Fengjiao, one of the last remaining sea women in Chinese Taipei, carefully navigates the slippery rocks as she gathers fistfuls of brownish-purple seaweed from the shoreline. The harvest taken from the exposed edge of the Pacific Ocean is a traditional practice that has sustained coastal communities for generations. Wu, who has spent more than half a century foraging these waters, continues the work despite the physical demands and dangers posed by strong currents, sharp rocks, and unpredictable tides. Each handful of seaweed is collected with precision before being carried inland, where it will later be cleaned, dried, and processed into jelly, preserving a food tradition closely tied to the island's maritime heritage. Seaweed foraging remains a declining occupation, with fewer practitioners continuing the labor-intensive craft. For Wu, however, the practice is more than a livelihood. It is a lifelong commitment to a way of life shaped by the sea. As younger generations move away from the traditional coastal harvesting, Wu's daily work stands as a reminder of a fading maritime culture. The annual lavender bloom has begun in Turkey's Isparta province, drawing thousands of domestic and international visitors to one of the country's best-known summer tourist destinations. Lavender fields covering nearly 5,000 hectares have come into full bloom, transforming the area into a landscape of purple during the peak flowering season in July. Visitors are arriving ahead of the annual lavender harvest to photograph the fields, which have become a major seasonal attraction for tourists, nature enthusiasts, and photographers. The influx of visitors is also supporting local businesses, with residents selling a range of lavender-based products, including essential oils, soaps, sachets, and other handcrafted goods made from the crop. The annual bloom is expected to continue attracting tourists throughout the harvest season, contributing to the local economy and rural tourism in the region. France marked Bastille Day with its annual July 14 military parade, where French artillery troops from overseas territories performed a traditional Maori haka before President Emmanuel Macron arrived to open the national celebrations. The ceremonial performance took place about an hour before the parade began, highlighting the diversity of France's armed forces during one of the country's most significant national events. The ceremony later featured a flypast and France's largest ever Bastille Day parade, with nearly 6,700 troops, 98 aircraft, 31 helicopters, and 315 military vehicles. More than 24 foreign heads of state and government, including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, as a guest of honor, attended the event alongside hundreds of European troops, underscoring growing European defense cooperation amid Russia's war in Ukraine. The annual parade served as a powerful display of France's military strength and its commitment to collective European security at a time of heightened regional tensions.
Hello and welcome to The Perspective on NTV World. I am Sabika Shrestha, your host for the program. From major headlines to the issues behind them, we break down the week's top stories and explore how they are shaping the path forward. As monsoon season reaches its peak, Nepal braces for natural disasters, including floods and landslides, resulting in the loss of life and property every year. In this episode, we look at government's efforts to strengthen disaster preparedness as the monsoon comes with the familiar threat of floods, landslides, and severe storms. The Nepal government has ramped up nationwide monsoon preparedness, deploying 26,000 rescue personnel and launching response operations across all 77 districts of Nepal. Authorities warn that more than 226,000 people could be affected by monsoon-related disasters this year, with additional rescue teams and relief resources mobilized in the country's most vulnerable areas. Here's a report. The Nepal government has intensified nationwide monsoon disaster preparedness, rolling out key response measures, including the designation of contact persons and the pre-positioning of rescue and relief supplies. The country's National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority has identified Lumbini, Kosi and Madhya provinces as the most disaster-prone during this year's monsoon, while allocating additional rescue teams, relief supplies and emergency resources to those areas. A total of 26,000 rescue personnel from Nepal's 3 security agencies have been deployed nationwide as this year's monsoon preparedness. All 3 tiers of government, federal, provincial and local governments have also activated dedicated rescue and relief mechanisms. Authorities say people affected by floods, landslides, inundation or other disasters can call the emergency hotline number 1234, leading to rescue and relief operations through the respective district response system. The government says rescue teams are expected to reach disaster sites within 1 hour in areas with accessible road networks.
लुम्बिनी प्रदेश, कोशी प्रदेश, मध्य प्रदेश चाहिँ बढी प्रभावित हुने र कर्णाली चाहिँ तुलनात्मक रूपमा कम हुने भनिएको छ। र त्यो सँगसँगै हामीले जुन बढी प्रभावित हुन्छ भनेका प्रदेश र जिल्लाहरू छन् त्यसमा चाहिँ हामीले बढी स्रोत साधनहरू, तालिम प्राप्त जनशक्तिहरू, हैन, खोज उद्धारका सामग्रीहरू, स्वयंसेवकहरू र स्थानीय पालिका र जिल्ला प्रशासन कार्यालय पनि उहाँहरू अलि बढी नै प्राथमिकतामा राखेर उहाँहरू खटिरहनु भएको छ। अब सेक्युरिटीकै कुरा गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामीले 3टा सुरक्षा निकायका 26,000 भन्दा बढी जनशक्ति चाहिँ यो मनसुनकै विपदमा भनेर चाहिँ डेडिकेटेड टिम चाहिँ आफ्नो ठाउँमा खटिसक्नु भएको छ। भएसम्म उहाँहरूले तुरुन्तै रेस्पोन्स गर्ने गरी अवस्था हुनुहुन्छ र यहाँहरूले देखिरहनु भएको छ अहिले कति ठाउँहरूमा उद्धारको काम पनि भइरहेको छ।
The government has estimated that this year's monsoon is likely to affect around 51,868 households or more than 226,000 people across the country. The prediction follows after last year's monsoon disasters claimed 495 lives and directly impacted 10,823 families. Authorities are preparing for possible disruptions along 2 of the country's busiest highways where floods and landslides regularly put travelers at risk. The move is aimed at strengthening emergency plans along vulnerable highways to respond to possible floods and landslides.
Travelers using the Tribhuvan and Prithvi highways this monsoon will have access to designated holding centers if floods or landslides block the roads. The district administration office in Dhading has identified 18 locations where stranded passengers and vehicles can be accommodated during emergencies. The initiative is aimed at reducing the risk to life and property while ensuring that travelers do not face the difficulties experienced during previous monsoon seasons.
मुख्य राजमार्ग हाम्रो निर्माणाधीन अवस्थामा छ त्यो हिसाबले पनि अझ बढी जोखिम भएको हामीले महसुस गरेर मुख्य राजमार्गको 86 किलोमिटर राजमार्ग भित्र हामीले चाहिँ 21 वटा जोखिमयुक्त बढी जोखिम भएका एरिया पहिचान गरेर 18 ठाउँमा चाहिँ हामीले होल्डिङ सेन्टर राखेर त्यही अनुसारका त्यो होल्डिङ सेन्टरमा हेभी इक्विपमेन्ट तालिम प्राप्त जनशक्ति देखि लिएर अरु अब तत्काल रेस्पोन्सको लागि एम्बुलेन्स औषधि तत्काल इमर्जेन्सी इमर्जेन्सी खाद्यान्नहरू पानी वितरणको विषयहरूदेखि लिएर हैन बेसिक चाहिँ हाम्रो पूर्व तयारी भएको छ र यसको लागि विशेष गरेर हामी चाहिँ स्थानीय सरकारसँग समन्वय गरेर यो विपद पूर्व तयारीको कार्यक्रम र विपद त कुनै समय आइ नै हाल्छ हैन यसलाई हामीले रोक्न सकिँदैन र विपद आयो भने तत्काल खोज तथा उद्धारको लागि रेस्पोन्सको लागि चाहिँ हाम्रो टिम तयार छ।
The local administration has also identified 21 locations within Gajuri, Galchi, Dhunibesi municipality and Benighat Rorang rural municipality as highly vulnerable to landslides and road blockages. Based on the assessment of the District Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Committee, these sites along the Tribhuvan and Prithvi highways have been officially classified as high-risk areas for monsoon-related disasters. To prevent passengers from being stranded during highway closures, holding centers will be operated at 18 locations, including Khanikola, Mahadev Besi, Simle, Galchi Baireni, Tirodi Bazar and Malekhu. The committee says the holding centers will provide safe shelter, food, drinking water, relief assistance and basic medical services until travel can safely resume. All local governments and concerned agencies have been instructed to keep emergency personnel, equipment and other essential resources on standby throughout the monsoon season. Authorities have also urged agencies responsible for electricity, drinking water, telecommunications and transportation services to ensure uninterrupted operations and to immediately repair roads and power infrastructure damaged by landslides or other monsoon-related disasters.
The Dodhara Chandani area of Kanchanpur is one of the most affected areas by floods and landslides every monsoon. For many residents, the biggest concern is no longer when it will rain, but whether they will survive this year's floods. Instead of waiting for disaster, communities are preparing in advance to reduce losses, protect lives, and respond quickly when floods strike.
The monsoon has yet to become active across the western Nepal, including Kanchanpur, but fear has already taken hold in flood-prone communities such as Dodhara Chandani. Hundreds of families living along the Mahakali and Jogbura rivers are spending sleepless nights, fearing that a sudden flooding could strike at any moment once the monsoon begins. In Kanchanpur, Ward number 3 and 8 and 10 of Dodhara Chandani municipality, along with Ward number 12 and 13 of Bhimdatta municipality have been identified as high-risk flood zones. The biggest concern is no longer when the rains will arrive, but whether they and their families will survive this year's flood. This year, however, communities are not waiting for disaster to strike. Instead, they have begun preparing in advance by strengthening early preparedness measures to reduce loss and damage, protect lives, and build resilience against potential flooding in the area.
घाम लागेको छ अहिले आ छैन केही मानेको छैनौँ आइसकेपछि हामी बाँचौँला भन्ने आफ्नो यो मनमा आत्माले पहिले छोडिदिन्छ.
Nearly 148 households in the riverbank remain on high alert, uncertain about when the rains will begin or how quickly floodwaters could inundate their villages. As part of this year's disaster preparedness efforts, residents have mapped flood risk areas and placed red flags outside vulnerable households. These flags identify homes with children, older persons, people with disabilities, expectant and new mothers, ensuring rescue teams to prioritize assistance during emergencies. Early warning systems, community-based rescue teams, and emergency preparedness measures are already in place.
यो हाम्रो समुदायमा पूर्ण रूपमा डुबान हुने र पूर्ण रूपमा क्षति हुने भएकाले यसलाई हामीले रेड जोनमा नै राखेका छौं. त्यसकारण हाम्रो यो प्रत्येक 42 वटा घरधुरीमा राता झण्डाहरू लगाइएको छ.
Although meteorologists have forecast below average rainfall this monsoon, local communities are taking no chances.
Nepal is entering a critical phase of the monsoon season with heavy rainfall warnings issued and authorities preparing for possible disasters. While emergency measures are being strengthened across the country, Kathmandu continues to face its own recurring monsoon challenge, flooded roads and waterlogged neighborhoods. Let's take a look.
Kathmandu Valley is among the fastest urbanizing cities in the world. Over the past decade, houses have expanded into almost every corner of the valley. In major urban areas, open spaces have become increasingly difficult to find. Experts say this rapid urbanization is affecting the city's environment and overall ecosystem. One example is the repeated flooding during the monsoon season. Rainwater needs open spaces to seep into the ground and flow naturally. But with limited open areas, rainwater directly enters drainage systems and then rivers and streams. This increases both the volume and speed of water flow, leading to flooding. The problem has been worsened by the practice of dumping waste into drains and rivers. Blocked waterways force rainwater into roads and into settlements. Every year, even normal rainfall leads to waterlogged roads, long traffic jams, difficulties for pedestrians, and flooding of physical structures.
अहिलेको काठमाडौँका विभिन्न क्षेत्रहरू विशेष गरी चाहिँ यो नदी किनारका होचा भूभागहरू र जहाँ चाहिँ ढल व्यवस्थापन अलि प्रभावकारी छैन त्यस्ता स्थानहरूमा चाहिँ बढी सानो पानी पर्दाखेरि पनि डुबान हुने अवस्था छ.
Experts have stressed the need to improve Kathmandu's drainage system to address monsoon flooding. In many areas, drainage capacity is already insufficient and careless waste disposal has made the situation more complicated. They also say rivers and streams in the valley have narrowed, leaving settlements along riverbanks and low-lying areas at higher risk.
तटीय क्षेत्रमा जुन हाम्रो अव्यवस्थित बस्तीहरू छन् त्यहाँ चाहिँ अलिकति डुबान हुने त्यसैगरी शहरी क्षेत्रमा पनि जहाँ चाहिँ अलिकति ढल निकास अलि राम्रो छैन अलि सानो छ त्यस्तोमा चाहिँ अलिकति बढी पानी पर्ने र डुबान हुने अवस्था छ. त्यस्तोमा चाहिँ अब हामीले मुख्य गर्नुपर्ने काम भनेको ढल निकासको समस्या अलि देख्छु मैले. ढल निकासमा अलिकति काम गर्नुपर्ने देखिन्छ.
Kathmandu's flooding is not a natural disaster alone. Experts say it is the result of weak infrastructure, unplanned urban development, and ineffective management. They warn that the capital's recurring flooding problem will continue unless authorities find long-term solutions.
Monsoon rains have not only affected highways and commuters, but even the relocated landless squatters. Heavy rainfall flooded the Radha Swami Squatter Holding Center in Sundarighat, Kirtipur, forcing another relocation of the displaced families. Although the affected families have been moved safely, many remain concerned about proper shelter and the availability of relief support.
The Radha Swami Holding Center at Sundarighat in Kirtipur Municipality 10 was inundated after the river's water level rose sharply last night. The flooding forced dozens of squatters to flee the shelter as the area remained underwater until this morning. Residents say the floodwaters entered the holding center while they were at sleep, leaving them with no time to save even their basic belongings. As of now, security personnel rescued 54 people from the holding center. The evacuees were first taken to the Smriti building inside the Tribhuvan University premises before being shifted to a safe shelter in Kharipati, Bhaktapur. Of the 207 displaced people, 25 are currently staying at the Electricity Authority Training Center in Kharipati.
हामी डुबानमा पर्यो अनि त्यही भएर यता आएको. 4 वर्षमा बिदा सर बितिहाल्यो जमनको.
राम्रै ठाउँमा राख्नुहुन्छ भन्ने आशा गरेको छु. अब उहाँबाट मलाई पढ्नलाई धेरै गाह्रो नहोस्.
The Ministry of Home Affairs says food, drinking water and other essential relief supplies are being provided to those affected. But many displaced families say the government's relief assistance of Rs 25,000 per household is far from enough to cover their basic needs as the cost of living continues to rise. They say temporary shelter and relief may provide immediate support, but what they need is a permanent place to live.
कमर 2 पटक फ्र्याक्चर भइसक्यो अनि त्यसैले गर्दा यहाँ बसिरहेको छु.
सामान शुद्ध म लग्यो भने म जहाँ जान्छु सरकारले लान्छ म त्यहाँ जानको लागि तयार हो सर.
Authorities say 20 families from the Radha Swami Holding Center have been relocated to Kharipati, while the remaining displaced families have been moved to housing facilities in Ichangu Narayan.
अब अहिले उहाँहरु बिस्तारै उहाँहरुको म्यानेज हुँदै गएर केही साथीहरु हामीले इचंगु नारायणमा पठाएका छौं
गर्दाखेरि अहिले चाहिँ डेली बेसिसमा हेर्दाखेरि करिब 25 जना बाँकी हुनुहुन्छ पहिलाको बाँकी रहेको पनि व्यवस्थापन हुने क्रम जायछ आज पनि उहाँहरू केही ट्रान्सफर हुँदै हुन्छ
For now, emergency relief has reached the displaced families, but they say temporary assistance is not enough. Their biggest demand is permanent rehabilitation plan that will allow them to rebuild their lives.
To help us better understand latest weather developments and their impact, we are joined virtually by climate analyst and chairperson of the Nepal Water Conservation Foundation, Dr. Nangmendra Dahal. Welcome to the perspective, sir.
Thank you.
So as we know, this year's monsoon is at the peak. So how is this year's monsoon expected to differ from previous years, and what weather pattern are you seeing?
Compared to the past, this is not normal monsoon. This is a below normal monsoon. In overall sense, there are factors behind this, why this happened. Over every 3 to 5 years, monsoon of this nature keep coming up. It's sometimes more weaker and sometimes more stronger, sometimes normal. So this is the weaker monsoon, but weaker means it is delayed. Its arrival was delayed by at least 1 or 2 weeks. Now we have full swing, and now it is moving into the normal pattern. But we are afraid of that in the coming months. It might be further weak, and still it is okay given the nature of our history.
Which provinces and districts are likely to face the highest risk of heavy rainfall, floods and landslides, and why?
Well, monsoon comes in a rhythm, but sometimes it bursts heavily in a shorter time, and other time it is very smooth and more normal type of rainfall for several days. And usually the landslide happens in the mountain region. And already we have a report from the very eastern region of Nepal, because monsoon usually enters Nepal from the eastern side. And so the eastern side usually face a very strong monsoon in the initial phase. So this year also we have reports of heavy landslide in Mechi, Koshi, Sagarmatha region as well. And gradually it is shifting westward and some other places as well. So it is slightly challenging to specify very local area where it will happen the next time, the more landslide and concentrated rainfall. Sometimes we give the specific more disaster kind of rainfall called cloud burst. So cloud burst is slightly challenging to predict already, but heavy rainfall can be predicted.
Mr. Dahal, how is climate change influencing Nepal's monsoon, and are extreme rainfall events becoming more frequent these days?
There are more erratic rainfall and heavier rainfall in certain pockets. So these are some of the critical problems we are facing. For example, in some area, for example, in our plain Tarai area, farmers are waiting for rainfall to transform their paddy plantation crop, this summer crop. But in mountain, it is getting heavier in particular pocket. So it is also bringing landslide. It affects differently. So in that way, our preparation matters a lot, and that's why sometimes the same monsoon benefit us, and other times the same kind of monsoon hampers or damage our activity. So it is all human nature, how we understand the climate. So usually I am increasingly looking on the recent pattern that our response has not been in align with the nature of the monsoon.
How are Nepal's weather forecasts and early warning systems in predicting extreme weather events?
Simply, we have heavily invested on weather monitoring system, weather tracking system, monsoon system. So our DSM is more stronger in tracking the monsoon activity in, all the time. So that's why we are getting more updated rainfall system, and like any other country. So most of the time, even, and only challenge we have is that localizing that forecast. We have in general kind of accurate forecast system, but that accuracy should go to the local level, which has not been able to do. For example, in particular municipality, when they have to make a decision what that climate forecast means to their field and their farmers. So that has not been changed much, but still in pocket area, specific area, our weather forecasting system has helped us a lot to prepare our farmer, tourism sector and other transport sector as well. So that is enhance our security and preparedness.
Sir, lastly, what should be the government's top immediate rescue priorities for disaster-prone areas?
Yes, prevention is always better than than response system. So, for example, what we do in our landscape, our settlement and our neighborhood during the dry season has already a kind of that has an impact during the monsoon. So monsoon will respond what we have done before. The public should be aware of that. This is not only about rainfall. This is what we do. Then that will multiply by the monsoon or rainfall. So that's why we have, before we move forward to manage our land system, river system, and other development infrastructure. We should care about the pattern of the monsoon, when it comes heavily and when the river change their course. So how our system will respond there. So that should be considered all ahead of the monsoon. So the preparedness is simply better understanding, better development planning, sustainable approach, doing things, more nature-based solution. So these are some of the solutions, well-known solutions we already have to respond the more changing pattern of the monsoon. So we can live this way, another hundreds and thousands years more safely compared to our in the past.
Thank you for your time and insights, sir.
Thank you so much for this opportunity again. Thank you.
That was Dr. Nangmendra Dahal explaining us more about this monsoon season. That's the perspective for this week. We'll be back next week with major highlights. Stay tuned to NTV World.
Culture and identity of a nation or community is deeply embedded in its craft and lifestyle. In this, specialized craft producers are major actors. Besides specialized skills and uniqueness, time adds value to such crafts. In this film, we explore two such specialized crafts, one in Kathmandu and the other in Niigata, that have played significant role in elevating their respective national culture and identity in the world's sphere. The capital of Nepal, Kathmandu, is a spectacular blend of natural beauty and culture. Habitat to about 2.5 million people, the city holds a rich cultural history that dates back to the ancient times. The 7 UNESCO World Heritage Sites it encompasses are evident to the fact. Swayambhunath, Bodhanath, Pashupatinath temple premises, Changunarayan temple area, as well as the 3 Darbar squares of Kathmandu, Patan and Bhaktapur enlisted in the UNESCO Cultural World Heritage Site are not only a glimpse of its civilization, but Nepalese treasured pride. The civilization of Kathmandu that lies 1400 meters above the sea level seemingly holds a close connection with copper products since time immemorial. Historical text has it that Kathmandu in ancient time was referred to as Nepal. Sanskrit lexicographers have a synonym of tamra or copper as Nepaliklam and Nepalam. Hence, the origin of the name Nepal is assumed to have been derived from the Sanskrit word copper. In Nepal, copper has been a basic raw material to a wide range of art and crafts, including in sculpture, architecture, detail and housewares making. Thus, it has over time been an integral part of Nepali civilization and lifestyle.
इस्वीको सुरुदेखि चाहिँ ताम्र को टुक्राहरूको व्यवहारबाट चाहिँ यसको चलनचल्ती भएको बुझिन्छ। त्यसपछि चाहिँ 6औं शताब्दीमा आएर चाहिँ यसबाट चाहिँ मुद्रा बनाउने चलन आयो। टिस्टुङको भटुवाल र पाल्चोक भन्ने दुई ठाउँमा अंशुवर्माले राखेको अभिलेखमा चाहिँ यो ताम्रभाण्ड तामाका भाँडाहरू चाहिँ सरकारको स्वीकृति बिना बाहिर लानु हुँदैन भन्ने उल्लेख आएको छ। ह्वेनसाङ चाहिँ भारतमा आएर भारतबाट चाहिँ नेपाल भएर चाहिँ चीन फर्केको बुझिन्छ। त्यो चाहिँ 643-44 ईस्वी सम्बततिर आएको बुझिन्छ। त्यो जुन कैलाशकूट भवन छ त्यो कैलाशकूट भवन बारे ह्वेनसाङले एकदमै राम्रो चाहिँ उल्लेख गरेको छ कि यो 7 तलाको थियो। यसको चाहिँ छाना चाहिँ तामाको थियो। यसको चाहिँ नेपालमा चाहिँ तामाको पैसा चाहिँ चल्तीमा छ। यहाँका मानिसहरूले भाँडाकुँडाहरू तामाको चलाउँछ। यी कुराहरू उल्लेख गरेको छ जुन चाहिँ चाइनाको टाङ वृत्तान्तमा अथवा इतिहासमा उल्लेख गरिएको छ।
The earliest known repose image is Garudasana Vishnu, dated 607 CE from Changunarayan temple in Bhaktapur. Some historical metal idols of the 6th and 7th century are remaining in private possession or in museum collections abroad. A significant consideration as evidence of copper metal craft are the idols dating back to the 11th century excavated in Makwanpur, which is a district adjoining Kathmandu. At the moment, these rare valuables are safely harbored at the Patan Darbar Square Museum. Among the 3 cities of Kathmandu Valley, Patan is comparatively popular for copper craft. Hundreds of families, especially the Newars, who are natives of this cultural city, have been preserving their ancestral legacy of manufacturing copperwares and artifacts for generations now. In Nepal, copper artifacts are made mainly through two techniques, either by lost waxing or repousse, which is a technique of pounding metal sheets. The Malla period between 1200 to 1482 is considered a golden era in terms of metalcraft in Nepal. An array of work dazzling in its quantity and quality was produced then, much of which survives. The popularity of Nepali artisans had reached far and wide. It was in this period that Araniko, the famous artisan, was taken to Tibet. In 1265, Emperor Kublai Khan of China, impressed with Araniko's work, invited him to the capital and got him to renovate the artifacts in the monastery there, dating back to the Song period. In 1274, Emperor Khan appointed Araniko the director of the court artisans in China. To date, artists in hundreds are committed to continue the legacy of copper craft in Nepal. Among them, some are successfully effortful to simultaneously take ahead promotion and expansion of the craft. Among such names is Rajkumar Shakya, renowned for his crafts and entrepreneurship. Shakya was born on 1966 in Patan in a family of metal craftsmen.
हाम्रो पुर्खौली अब बाजे बराजुदेखि नै यही काममा लाग्नु भएको बुवाले काम गर्नु भएको जासलमा बसेर बुवासँगै बसेर खेल्दै सिक्दै काम गर्दै गर्दै परम्परागत तरिकाले नै सिकेको मैले सानो बेला सिक्दाखेरि त्यति बजार पनि थिएन यो कलाको अहिले आउँदाखेरि यो कलाको चाहिँ बजार पनि अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय जगतमा फैलिँदै गयो यसको चाहिँ उत्पादनमा पनि वृद्धि गर्नुपर्ने देखियो
Shakya's works have made a niche both in the national and international market. Passion, focus, devotion and search for new ideas is what has elevated Shakya's profile as compared to other artists. The incomparable expression of skill and creation of beauty are reflected in his works, which are beyond imagination for any ordinary artists. His widely acclaimed works of craft have been placed at various countries, with Japan, Vietnam, China, Thailand harboring his significant works. The latest is the 155 feet tall idol of Guru Padmasambhav in Bhutan. Based on repousse, pounded sheets of copper were wrapped around iron skeleton, which was built using modern architecture. Supervised by Shakya, it took 4 years for 57 artisans to complete the idol.
2000 Expo ma जर्मनमा मैले सबभन्दा ठुलो स्वयम्भूको स्तूपा बनाउने अवसर पाएँ फेरि पछि चाहिँ 2010 मा चाइनामा पनि फेरि एक्सपो वर्ल्ड एक्सपोमा त्यहाँ पनि मैले चाहिँ ठुलो स्तूपा बनाउने र अरु कलाकृतिहरू बनाउने मौका पाएँ त्यसमा चाहिँ अझ मैले चाहिँ हाम्रो हनुमान ढोकाको श्वेत भैरवको मुखाकृति 12 फिटको श्वेत भैरवको मुखाकृति पनि बनाउने अवसर पाएँ। त्यो पनि त्यहाँ अब चाइनामा चाहिँ एक्सपोमा प्रदर्शन गर्न पाएँ। त्यसपछि अनि चाहिँ मैले भुटानमा पद्मसम्भवको मूर्ति बनाउने पनि अवसर पाएँ।
Cultural and anthropological experts have highly evaluated Shakya's efficiency and capabilities.
त्यो 14औं शताब्दीमा जुन परम्परा थियो हाम्रो नेपालबाट अन्य देशमा गएर चाहिँ नि कलाकारहरूले आफ्नो कला प्रस्तुत गर्ने, नेपालको कलाकारितालाई त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि स्थापित गर्ने जुन काम गरेको थियो, त्यसै कामको चाहिँ नि निरन्तरताको रूपमा अहिले हामीले 20औं 21औं शताब्दीमा राजकुमार साक्यजीलाई पाएको छौं। यस्तो ठुलो ह्युज त्यो मूर्तिहरू बनाउने क्रममा चाहिँ नि त्यो मूर्तिको एउटा स्थानबाट अर्को स्थानमा सार्नु, त्यस्तै गरी त्यसलाई चाहिँ प्रोपोर्सनेट मिलाउने आदि इत्यादि टेक्निकल पनि एकदमै कठिन काम हो। अब यसलाई चाहिँ उहाँले अत्यन्तै माइन्युटली चाहिँ गर्नु हुँदो रहेछ।
To reach Shakya's stature, however, takes a lot of dedication, devotion, practice and patience. Thus, not many youth look keen in pursuing with the profession. Keeping this in mind, Shakya also conducts classes for the younger generation in a bid to hand it over to them. Most interestingly, Shakya's son is also one of his pupils and has already joined him in his business.
हेरिटेजमा नेपालको एकदम टुरिस्टहरु पनि एकदम आकर्षित भयो हेरिटेजमा हैन, त्यही भएर अब बुवा पनि यसमै लाग्नु भयो। त्यही पनि मैले नि यसमै गरौँ कि जस्तो मलाई लाग्यो। बुवा यति आर्टिस्ट भएर पनि अब मेरोमा पनि धेरै एक्सपेक्टेसन गर्छन् होला अरूले पनि, त्यही भएर अब सिक्न काम गाह्रो पनि छ, सिक्न अब टाइम पनि लाग्नेछ, धेरै सिक्न पनि त बाँकी छ।
Such noble endeavors, complemented by the engagement of the younger generation, have indeed sparked a hope that the prosperous tradition will be kept alive. For those involved in copper kitchenwares and housewares, the biggest emerging threat is the modern wares, which are both attractive and cheaper. In a bid to preserve their profession, they have now attempted to add diversity to their products based on the demand of the changing times. Meanwhile, there are others like Kalyan Krishna Tamrakar, who, although remaining in the trade, have embraced newer productions based on market needs. Tamrakar has been manufacturing artistic utensils along with internationally acclaimed singing bowls, which are mostly used in meditational purposes.
करीब 28 वर्ष भयो सिंगिङ बोल्स, नयाँ सिंगिङ बोल्स बनाउने र त्यसमा अलिकति थेरापिक युजको लागि बनाएको सायद नेपालमा पहिलो नै मैले बनाए होला। एउटा फिलोसफी हो र जहाँसम्म युटेन्सिल्स मैले बनाउने सन्दर्भमा पहिला यो धेरै पहिलाहरू बन्थ्यो र पछि बिस्तारै यो ब्रोन्जको युटेन्सिल्सहरू लोप हुँदै गयो, अनि यो बनाउनु पाए हुन्छ कि भनेर अनि हामीले यसलाई फेरि बनाउन थालेको।
The market for singing bowls is mostly Europe and is used in intensive research and meditation. The sound created from the balls vary based on the utensil itself and is proven effective for improving blood circulation and hence is used in therapy as well. Tamrakar, whose forefathers had been copper craftsmen by profession, has justifiably promoted their knowledge and skills in the wider market through entrepreneurship. Majority of his buyers are from Germany and Japan.
やはり他で買いが利かないのと、さらにその日本の求める品質にネパールの人たちが合わせてものを作ってくれるからと思います。
私のユーザーは心を癒すそういったツールを大変求めているユーザーが多いです。例えばアロマセラピーの方でヨガの方、そういった方たちの要望に応えるためにネパールから輸入しようと思いました。そうすると残ってる手作りは大変高い、ほとんどアーティストのレベルしか残りなくなります。一般の方が使う商品はもう今やネパールでないと できないのが現状だと思ってます。ですから私たちのユーザーはそれを望んでますから、今私もネパールから大変たくさんの量を輸入しています。
In the Yahikoyama terrain drained by Shinano River lies Niigata city. Rice farming is predominant owing to the rich soil deposit which makes it ideal for agriculture. Besides, it is also renowned for the high-quality copper mines. During the Meiji period, copper mining flourished in the foothills. Adorned in tulip blooms, the designated city of food and flowers does not rest even amidst thick blankets of snow. Tsubame in Niigata is a city of metal craft and craftsmen that have thrived through prosperity and tumultuous times. At the beginning of the 1600s, lot of artisans came to exist in the Tsubame Sanjo area, driven by the local administration's policy of encouraging side business. Thus originated the metal processing industry from the making of Japanese-style nails known as wakugi. The first artisans also produced household items including agricultural tools, kitchenwares and tobacco pipes. Once Japan started importing Western-style nails, the number of artisans gradually started decreasing. During the Second World War until 1945, the factories in the local area had to be mobilized to produce military goods. The 1950s was a time of mass production and mass consumption in Japan. Thus, metal processing companies grew multifold in number and size. Following the Plaza Accord that largely intervened currency markets, the factories gradually lost their business to their overseas competitors. They did not have as many orders as they once had. As a result, the local business temporarily but sharply declined.
今、燕市で追記銅器というふうに言われている、器といいますか、ものがありますけれども、それは一般的に金工でいう金属を加工する技術の中の単金と言われるものの一つでして、それを全国的に同じような技法はたくさんあるんですけれども、燕市ではそれを追記銅器と呼んでいる。燕市の追記銅器というのは伝統工芸技術としても県の指定にもなっておりますし、伝統工芸品としても指定されていますが、燕市の中ではだいたい今から250年くらい前の江戸時代の後期にその技術が仙台の方から来た職人によって伝わったと言われています。
Kakuhei Tamagawa also learned the technique from the craftsman and hence founded Gyokusendo in 1816. Since then, about 300 artisans have kept alive the traditional skills. The company is currently a leader in Niigata to preserve and expand the treasured tradition of Tsukidoki. It is said during the Second World War, when weapons and arms mass production had peaked, the Tsukidoki industry nearly disappeared owing to shortages of copper. It was Gyokusendo's then leadership that brought back the craftsmen dispersed across the country that helped in the revival of the industry.
Kathmandu court sentences former ministers in refugee scam case. Raimaji gets 4-year prison term, Khan sentenced to 2 years. Child drowning deaths continue to rise during monsoon season. Calls grow for better safety at open construction and waterlogged sites. Nepal's hydropower output continues to increase. A weak grid forces hydropower plants to cut production. US-Iran tensions escalate after fresh strikes in Gulf region. Iran reports explosions near key ports as oil prices climb. Nepal enters quarterfinals of ACC Under-19 Women's Premier Cup with a third victory. Also posts its second highest Under-19 total. And European giants face off for final berth of World Cup 2026. France and Spain meet in semi-final showdown. Good evening, I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in detail. A Kathmandu district court has sentenced former Deputy Prime Minister Top Bahadur Raimaji and former Home Minister Balkrishna Khan after convicting them in a fake Bhutanese refugee scam case. The court announced the sentences on Tuesday following a hearing to determine punishments for those found guilty in the refugee fraud case. Raimaji has been sentenced to 4 years in prison and fined 40,000 Nepali rupees, which is around $300. Khan has received a 2-year prison sentence and a fine of 20,000 Nepali rupees, approximately $150. Former Home Secretary Teknarayan Pandey was also sentenced to 4 years in prison and fined 40,000 Nepali rupees, while Bhutanese refugee leader Teknath Rizal received a 2-year jail sentence and a 20,000 rupee fine. The court also handed down sentences to other individuals convicted in the case. The fake Bhutanese refugee scam involved allegations that Nepali citizens were falsely promised resettlement in the US as Bhutanese refugees in exchange for large sums of money. Now, 3 siblings have drowned in a rainwater-filled excavation pit in Golbazar municipality of Siraha, southeastern Nepal, raising fresh concerns over child safety during the monsoon. The tragedy highlights a wider pattern of child drownings across Nepal. Nepal police data show that 1,485 children died from drowning over the past 5 years, with nearly 70% of deaths in lakes and ponds occurring in Madhya province. Authorities say unmanaged excavation sites, unfenced water bodies and inadequate supervision remain major risk factors. Child rights advocates are urging stronger action from local governments and communities to prevent further deaths during the rainy season. We'll look into this in detail in our issue of the day segment later in the bulletin. Now, Nepal is generating record levels of electricity, but inadequate transmission infrastructure is preventing the country from using its full hydropower capacity. Around 80 hydropower projects have been forced to scale back production as more than 500 megawatts of power remains unused. While Nepal consumes about 2,600 megawatts domestically and exports roughly 1,200 megawatts to India, private producers warn the unused power could cost the country billions of rupees in lost revenue each year. The government says transmission lines and substations are being upgraded. However, energy developers are calling for faster expansion of the national grid and greater private sector participation in electricity trading. More on this in our cover story later. Explosions have been reported, in fact, near Iran's port cities of Bandar Abbas and Bushehr, according to Iranian state media, as tensions between Tehran and Washington continue to escalate following a night of strikes. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said it had targeted 2 UAE-linked tankers in the Strait of Hormuz and carried out attacks against US facilities in Jordan and Bahrain. The UAE condemned the tanker attacks as brazen, saying an Indian crew member was killed and 8 others were injured. The US military said it had conducted strikes aimed at reducing Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping in the region. Iran's state media reported that 3 people were killed in the attacks. Meanwhile, oil prices continue to rise, with benchmark Brent crude up more than 3% at $86.07 per barrel. U.S. President Donald Trump said the U.S. military was carrying out very heavy strikes against Iran and had reinstated a naval blockade on Iranian ports. Speaking at the White House, Trump said U.S. forces were targeting Iran's offensive capabilities and claimed that Washington was in control of key waterways, including the Strait of Hormuz.
But we're hitting them very heavy tonight, as you know. We have tremendous amounts of ammunition. We have numbers that we haven't had in years. And we're hitting them very hard, and it'll continue, and we'll see what happens. But we're knocking out all of their offensive capability, and we're controlling the straits. We're putting the blockade back, and it's a blockade now.
Nepal has entered the quarterfinals of ACC Under-19 Women's Premier Cup with the third consecutive victory to top Group D. The team crushed Hong Kong by 181 runs. Chasing Nepal's strong target of 212, Hong Kong managed only 30 runs for 9 wickets in the full 20 overs. For Nepal, captain Soni Pakrin was outstanding, taking 4 wickets for just 4 runs in her 4 overs. Manisha Upadhyay claimed 2 wickets, while Krishma Gurung and Sina Mahara picked up 1 each. Earlier, batting first after losing the toss, Nepal had posted 211 runs for 6 wickets in 20 overs. Pakrin led from the front with 90 runs off 60 balls, hitting 13 fours and a 6. Sabitri Dhami added 52 and Alisha Yadav remained unbeaten on 23. This is Nepal's second highest total at under-19 level and the highest in the ongoing tournament. Previously, Nepal had scored 213 against Kuwait in the 2025 Women's Under-19 T20 World Cup qualifiers. Nepal had earlier defeated Qatar by 105 runs and Singapore by 151 in its first 2 matches. Now, the first semi-final of the FIFA World Cup 2026 will see European heavyweights France and Spain go head-to-head today, with a place in the final at stake. The highly anticipated clash is scheduled to kick off at 12:45 a.m. Nepal time Wednesday. The winner will advance to the World Cup final, while the losing side will compete in the third-place playoff. Despite both being former world champions, this will be the first ever meeting between France and Spain in a FIFA World Cup, making it one of the standout fixtures of the tournament itself. 3 children from the same family drowned in a rainwater-filled pit in Siraha, raising urgent questions about child safety during the monsoon. After a quick break in our Issue of the Day segment, we'll look at why nearly 70% of child drowning deaths occur in Madhya province and what must be done to prevent these tragic losses. Stay with us. You're watching NTV World and this is News Hour. Welcome back. Children are becoming increasingly vulnerable to drowning to death in the Madhya region of Nepal, especially during monsoon. 3 children from a family drowned in a rainwater-filled pit in Siraha district 2 days ago. The incident in Gol Bazar has raised concern over the safety of children as well as exposed the problem of unmanaged water-induced hazards, especially at construction and excavation sites. Correspondent Hiralal Chaudhary reports.
3 siblings died after drowning in a pit filled with rainwater at the Choharba Livestock Market in Gol Bazar Municipality, Ward 7, Siraha 2 days ago. Police have identified the deceased as 12-year-old Shabnam Khatun, 10-year-old Rubina Khatun, and 8-year-old Shaful Sheikh, all of the same family. The family originally belongs to Jinghawa 2 in Rohtahat district. Their father, Awash Sheikh, has been living in the area for several years, working as a scrap collector. According to the father, he had gone out for work when the incident occurred. The children's mother was occupied with household chores at the time.
वो डूबले बा हमरा लड़का डूबले ओकरे बाद में तब ई छौरी फान ले एकरे बाद में वो एक बार लड़की रहे वो फान ले पकड़ेला तले सब सामान ये सरकार से नगरपालिका से हमरे क्षतिपूर्ति की चाहिए ना.
The pit where the children drowned had been formed after gravel was excavated during a local road construction project near the family's rented residence. Family members and local residents have demanded that the local government take responsibility for the incident and provide compensation.
रात 11 बजे खड़ने हैं नगर पालिका के गलती नहीं तो क्या कर गलती है ऐसा का हमरा के इंसाफ चाहिए और कुछ नहीं चाहिए इंसाफ चाहिए
केटा घर में से 3 गो बच्चा अथी भ गेले का मर गेले का काल बने और केकरो बच्चा जा सके है ने दे रात खून का मतलब जैसे रोड बना देने हैं पूरे एकदम गहिर कर देने हैं
घर के बगल में खुना है कि चौड़ी में खुना है चौड़ी में खुना है घर के पछाड़ी में खड्डा खुनल का एकरा एक छोटी टा बच्चा मरल देख ले बाबी गुना एकर क्षतिपूर्ति कर देते.
Open pits that collect rainwater during the monsoon remain a reoccurring hazard in the district. Local governments have been urged to identify and secure such sites, particularly where excavation work is underway. Police say investigations into the incident are continuing. The tragedy has left one family devastated and raised fresh questions about safety oversight at construction and excavation sites during the monsoon.
Drowning of children to death has been one of the serious problems in Nepal in open pits, ponds and other waterlogged areas, especially in Tarai region every monsoon. Around 70% of these deaths occur in Madhya province, with most incidents taking place in ponds, lakes, rivers and streams with open access. Child rights advocates say parents, communities, local governments and state agencies must work together to keep children safe and prevent drowning during rainy season. Sabika Shrestha along with Pawan Barsas Shah brings more.
Child drowning has emerged as a recurring tragedy in Nepal, particularly during the rainy season, as inadequate management and monitoring of ponds, water bodies, waterlogged areas, rivers and streams continue to put children at risk. According to the data, nearly 70% of drowning deaths in lakes and ponds occur in Madhya province, while Bagmati province records the lowest number. According to Nepal police statistics covering the 5-year period up to the last fiscal year, a total of 1,485 children lost their lives due to drowning across Nepal, of which 1,025 were boys and 460 were girls. A total of 429 children drowned in lakes and ponds, while 464 lost their lives in rivers and streams, making these the leading sites of drowning incidents. In addition, 9 children drowned in wells and 12 children died after drowning in septic tanks, highlighting the wide range of water-related hazards that continue to pose a serious threat to children's safety across Nepal. The data further shows that Madhya province recorded the highest number of child drowning deaths in lakes and ponds, with 239 fatalities over the 5-year period. Nepal police says several factors, including open excavation pits being left unmanaged, absence of protective barriers or fencing around ponds, lakes, rivers and streams, and insufficient parental supervision contribute to these accidents.
बर्खाको समयमा यस्ता घटनाहरू बढी हुने भएको कारणले त्यसप्रति सचेत रहन र सम्बन्धित निकायहरूलाई समेत समन्वय गर्दै खास गरी स्थानीय प्रशासन, स्थानीय निकायहरू, सरकारवालाहरू, यसमा खास जिम्मेवारी भनेको अभिभावकहरूले आफ्नो बालबालिकाहरूलाई ख्याल नगर्दाखेरि यस्ता दुःखद घटना घटेका छन् भने त्यसैगरी कसैले कुनै प्रपोजको लागि खाल्डो बनाइन्छ भने त्यो खाल्डोलाई अर्थात् त्यो खोला भनौँ न त्यो ताल पोखरीलाई विशेषतः सुरक्षाको उपायहरू अपनाउनु पर्ने हुन्छ। त्यहाँ तारबारका कुराहरू हुन्छ, त्यहाँ चाहिँ सचेतनामूलक बोर्डहरू राख्नुपर्ने अवस्थाहरू हुन्छ। यस्तो कुराहरूमा विशेष ध्यान दिनुपर्ने कुराहरू हुन्छ।
Child rights advocates stress that reducing this risk requires higher vigilance and responsibility from parents, communities, local governments and all state agencies concerned to ensure children's safety during the rainy season. Sabika Shrestha, NTV World.
And in this context, in our Public Pulse segment, today we discuss the causes of such deaths in ponds, open pits, rivers and other water bodies, along with measures to prevent these tragedies. Let's have a look.
यो खाल्डो खुल्डो जुन यहाँनिर स्थानीयमा देखिन्छ यता रोडहरूमा यसको प्राथमिकता जिम्मेवारी चाहिँ तपाईको नेपाल सरकार र स्थानीय सरकार र प्रादेशिक सरकारले नै लिनुपर्छ र यो अलिकति चाहिँ सोच्नु पर्ने चाहिँ तपाईको गार्जियनहरूले पनि हो। मेरो बालबच्चा कता छन्, के गर्दैछन् त्यो पनि सोच्नु पर्ने आवश्यक हुन्छ।
अहिले भर्खरै जुन भएको घटनाहरूमा के देखेको छ भने त्यो सडकको छेउछाउतिर जुन सडक बनाउने क्रममा खाल्डाहरू छोडेर यसलाई त्यो अगाडिको पुनः त्यसलाई सम्याउने कामहरू नगरी यो खास गरेर यो ठेकादारहरू जो ठेकापट्टाले बाटो बनाउने काम गरिराख्नुहुन्छ उहाँहरूलाई खास गरेर यो कुराहरूमा ध्यान दिनुपर्छ किनभने उहाँहरू पनि यही समाजका मान्छे हुन्।
अब खाल्डाखुल्डीमा तपाईको स्थानीय सरकारलाई पनि मेन भूमिका हेर्नुपर्छ, बुझ्नुपर्छ। तपाईको के छ विषयमा खाल्डो छ हैन, अब त्यो कुड्नु पर्यो उसलाई, अब कुडेन भने मान्छे हिँडिराखेको हुन्छ बाटोमा, अचानक लड्यो भने त्यो मान्छे ठोकेर होस् वा डुबेर होस् मृत्यु हुन्छ। यो प्रति स्थानीय सरकारलाई मेन भूमिका खेल्नु पर्यो।
बच्चाहरू त बुझ्ने हुँदैन हैन, खाल्डो त हुन्छ। अब ठिटारहरूले के गर्छ, माटो अब यहाँबाट उखाएर घेराबाट उठाएर सबै लगिहाल्छ हैन, त्यहाँ तिनीहरूको काम भइहाल्छ। उनीहरू अब आफ्नो घरमा काममा तेल हालेर सुतिहाल्छ हैन, बच्चाहरू नहाउन जान्छ डुबिहाल्छ। अब के चाहिँ गार्जियन पनि त्यति ध्यान दिँदैन।
बच्चा उच्चा ठेकेदार सब रोड विभागमा काम कैलक, बजट आयल नहीं आयल, रोड के चोने छोड़ दिलक। अब बाल बच्चा रोड पर घूमबे करते खेलबे करते, तै के जिम्मेवारी त नेपाल सरकार हो पर्ले नै।
स्थानीय सरकारले हेर्नुपर्छ, यसलाई खाल्डो खुल्टो खन्ने दिनु खने पनि तत्काल त्यसलाई ठेकेदार मार्फत भरभुर गरेर त्यसलाई राख्नुपर्छ, पुर्नु पर्यो।
आफू पनि सचेत हुनुपर्छ हैन, यो समय आएपछि आफूले पनि जोगिने कोसिस गर्नुपर्छ। जिम्मेवारी चाहिँ पूर्ण रूपमा राज्यको हुन्छ।
एक दिनको समस्या होइन, त जति बेला वर्षा आमको समय आउँछ
That was our Issue of the Day segment. Moving on, Nepal is generating record levels of power, but inadequate transmission infrastructure is forcing hydropower plants to cut production. Next, in our cover story, we examine why thousands of megawatts of clean energy are at risk of going to waste and what it will take to unlock the country's full power potential. Stay with us. You're watching News Hour here on NTV World. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Welcome back. Time now for our cover story of the day. Nepal is producing more electricity than ever before, but a lack of transmission capacity is forcing power producers to reduce generation. Around 80 hydropower projects are currently operating at only about 90% of their capacity after demand failed to absorb all the power being generated. The situation has raised concerns among private power producers who say thousands of megawatts of potential energy could go to waste without urgent infrastructure upgrades. Kamala Aryal with Siksha Bhattarai on South brings more.
Nepal's energy sector is facing a growing contradiction. The country has ambitious plans to export electricity, including a government target of sending 10,000 megawatts of power to India over the next decade. But the national grid is struggling to carry the electricity already being produced. Government and private sector projects are currently generating more than 4,300 megawatts of electricity. Of that, around 2,600 megawatts is consumed domestically, while approximately 1,200 megawatts is being exported to India. More than 500 megawatts of additional electricity remains unused. Private producers say if this surplus power could be exported, Nepal could earn around 9 billion rupees during a single season. Instead, they warn wasted electricity could mean an annual loss of the same amount. The issue has become a major concern for independent power producers.
दुर्दी कोरिडोर लगायतकोमा त कन्टिन्जेन्सीमा रन भइरहेछ अहिले बर्खामा तपाईको भनेको 30% को हाराहारीमा बल्ल चाहिँ विद्युत चाहिँ उत्पादन भइरहेको छ त्यसमा अब भन्दाखेरि त्यो सबै बिजुली बाँकी खेर गइरहेको छ दोर्दी कोरिडोरले यो भन्दा अगाडि नै झनै 5 अर्ब भन्दा बढी बिजुली खेर गइसकेको अवस्था छ र अरु प्रोजेक्टहरुमा पनि डिस्प्याच इन्स्ट्रक्सन चाहिँ इस्यु गरिरहेको छ जसले चाहिँ 90% को हाराहारीमा मात्रै बिजुली उत्पादन भइरहेको छ.
Energy authorities say work is underway to prevent electricity wastage. The government says it is upgrading transmission infrastructure and expanding the capacity of the national grid. Transmission lines in urban areas including Kathmandu Valley, Pokhara and Chitwan are being upgraded, with some sections being placed underground. Authorities are also working to expand the 132 kilovolt grid network from the east to west and improve the distribution system.
पावर इभ्याकुएसन बढाउनको लागि चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ पुरानै लाइनमा पनि जस्तै 132 केभी को लाइनलाई पनि हामी चाहिँ एचटीएलएस कन्डक्टरले चाहिँ अपग्रेड गरेर चाहिँ पावर इभ्याकुएसन क्यापेसिटी बढाउने काम भइरहेको छ. उपत्यका लगायत शहरी क्षेत्र पोखरा भरतपुरहरुमा चाहिँ लाइन विस्तार गर्नको लागि चाहिँ हामी अन्डरग्राउन्ड केबलहरु पनि constructionको अन्तिम चरणमा रहेको अवस्था छ.
Energy sector stakeholders say weak transmission infrastructure, limited substation capacity, and management challenges are preventing Nepal from fully utilizing its growing electricity production. They are calling for immediate expansion of transmission capacity and greater participation of the private sector in electricity trading.
That was our cover story. On to other news. Nepal's government has decided to implement recommendations from various commissions formed in the past to address cases of illegal lending practices, commonly known as loan shark or exploitative high-interest transactions. A cabinet meeting held at the Prime Minister's office in Singhdarbar decided to immediately begin implementing the reports through the Home Ministry. The cabinet also appointed Maheshwar Bhaktashrestha as the chair of the board of directors of Nepal Airlines Corporation.
आज नेपाल सरकार मन्त्री परिषदको सम्बद्ध 2083 असार 30 गतेको मुख्य निर्णयहरू पढेर सुनाउँछु. पहिलो कृषि मन्त्रालयबाट छ. बिउ बिजन पहिलो संशोधन नियमावली 2083 स्वीकृत गर्ने. अर्को गृहबाट छ. सशस्त्र प्रहरी बल नेपालका विपद खोजदारमा खटिने कर्मचारीको प्रोत्साहन भत्ता उपलब्ध गराउने. अर्को शिक्षा तथा खेलकुद मन्त्रालयबाट छ. अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय प्रतियोगितामा पदक हासिल गरेका खेलाडी, प्रशिक्षक, सहायक प्रशिक्षक, फिजियो र व्यवस्थापकलाई नगद पुरस्कार तथा सम्मान पत्र प्रदान गर्ने. अर्को संस्कृति पर्यटन तथा नागरिक उड्डयन मन्त्रालयबाट छ. नेपाल वायु सेवा निगम सञ्चालक समिति अध्यक्ष श्री महेश्वर भक्त श्रेष्ठलाई महाप्रबन्धकको समेत र कार्यकारी अध्यक्षको पदमा नियुक्त गर्ने. महाप्रबन्धकको काम समेत गर्ने गरी. अर्को अनुचित लेनदेन मिटर ब्याज सम्बन्धमा नेपाल सरकारको निर्णय बमोजिम विगतमा गठन भएका विभिन्न आयोगको प्रतिवेदन गृह मन्त्रालयले तत्कालै कार्यान्वयन गर्ने आजको प्रमुख 5 वटा निर्णयहरू.
Home Minister Sudan Gurung held talks with a group of loan shark victims who have been marching on foot from Dhanusha to Kathmandu to press for the fulfillment of their demands. The Home Minister met the protesters in Nijgarh of Bara district after travelling there specifically to hold discussions. The first round of talks on their 6-point demands was held at Nijgarh Chamber of Commerce and Industry Hall, according to participants. Both the government and the protesting victims are now preparing internally for a second round of discussions. Home Minister Gurung told the victims he would consult Prime Minister on their demands. The victims have demanded that all fraudulent documents linked to meter interest cases be declared invalid through a cabinet decision, the formation of a dedicated tribunal to address such cases, the return of confiscated property and investigations against lenders under money laundering laws based on complaints filed by victims. The victims began their foot march from Tilgachi in Dhanusha early this week. They were heading towards Kathmandu to draw the attention to their grievances. Now, lawmakers in Nepal's House of Representatives have raised concerns over issues including natural disasters, power shortages, road disruptions and public hardships. During Tuesday's session, MPs urged the government to take immediate steps to support flood and landslide victims, address fuel shortages in eastern districts and resolve prolonged power outages. Lawmakers also highlighted cases linked to road safety, displacement of affected families and demands for justice in alleged discrimination and police-related incidents. The House approved proposals to send two bills, the Nepal Special Service Act Amendment Bill and the National Service Corps Bill, to concerned committees for clause-wise discussion. Finance Minister Swarnim Wagle also tabled a bill to amend and repeal some finance-related Nepal acts. The next meeting of the House has been scheduled for tomorrow. Rashtriya Swatantra Party's chair Ravi Lammichhane has said his party supports an investigation and action over incident of vehicles parked outside the media houses in Kathmandu on Monday. Speaking to journalists at the Federal Parliament building in Singhadarbar on Tuesday, Lammichhane said the party had already made its position public through a statement calling for a probe and accountability over the incident.
पार्टीले एकदमै गम्भीरतापूर्वक जुन विज्ञप्ति प्राप्त भएको छ पार्टीले भनेको छ त्यसमा गम्भीरता तपाईहरुले हेर्नुभयो होला हामीले जुन ढंगले त्यसमा भनेको छ त्यसकारणले यसलाई अब इन्स्ट्यान्टली के गरियो तत्काललाई के गरियो त्यो बेग्लै कुरा हो तर यो घटनालाई हेर्ने दृष्टिकोण पार्टीको त स्पष्ट छ त्यसकारणले यो स्पष्ट दृष्टिकोणका साथ हामी यसमै अडिग छौं तत्काललाई छोडियो कि समाइयो कि के मुद्दा लाग्यो कि लागेन त्यो बेग्लै कुरा हो तर इन्टायर यो जुन प्रवृत्ति भयो जुन चीज देखियो त्यो अस्वाभाविक भएको हुनाले यसप्रति पार्टी जुन विज्ञप्ति मार्फत पार्टीले भनेको छ पार्टी यसमा अडिग छ
Nepal's Vice President Ram Sahai Prasad Yadav has departed for Qatar on a 3-day official visit to convey Nepal's condolences over the death of former Qatari Emir Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. During the visit, Yadav is scheduled to hand over a condolence message from Nepal's President Ramchandra Podal to Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. The Vice President is accompanied by senior Nepal government officials and is scheduled to return home on 16th of July after completing the visit. International news lined up next. For now, a quick recap of the top stories. Kathmandu court sentences former ministers in refugee scam case. Raimaji gets 4-year prison term, Khan sentenced to 2 years. Child drowning deaths continue to rise during monsoon season. Calls grow for better safety at open construction and waterlogged sites. Nepal's hydropower output continues to increase. Weak grid forces hydropower plants to cut production. US-Iran tensions escalate after fresh strikes in Gulf region. Iran reports explosions near key ports as oil prices climb. Nepal enters quarterfinals of ACC Under-19 Women's Premier Cup with a third victory. Also posts its second highest Under-19 total. And European giants face off for final berth of World Cup 2026. France and Spain meet in semi-final showdown. Britain has signed up to participate in the EU's €90 billion support loan for Ukraine, meaning UK firms will be able to provide more weapons paid for by the funds. Speaking at a Coalition of the Willing meeting in Paris, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the decision creates a new route for Ukraine to procure capabilities and sends a very powerful message about European unity.
And I'm really pleased to announce today that the UK will participate in the EU €90 billion Ukraine support loan. This agreement will ensure that Ukraine continues to receive the military capabilities it needs most. It creates a new route for Ukraine to procure capabilities from UK industry, including ammunition, air defence systems and long-range missiles. And it sends a very powerful message about European unity.
Thai authorities are investigating if negligence was what led to the deadly inferno at a Bangkok bar late on Sunday, as survivors reported doors being locked and the lack of signage demarcating emergency exits. The use of flammable materials as a decoration may have facilitated the rapid spread of the fire, which originated near the stage, according to police. The blaze has left at least 30 people dead and dozens more injured. First responders found many of the victims in the restrooms at the end of the bar, from where experts believe they tried to flee but could not. More than 70 people are injured, 24 of them critically. Preliminary investigations suggest the blaze was caused by a short circuit in an air conditioner, which quickly cut power throughout the bar. South Korea has issued its first ever emergency heat wave alerts under a new warning system as soaring temperatures continue to affect communities across the country. Residents in the eastern coastal city of Pohang have been facing extreme heat conditions, with temperatures climbing to dangerous levels. Under the new system, an emergency heat wave alert is triggered when areas affected by a heat wave are forecast to record perceived temperatures of 30 degrees Celsius or higher, or actual temperatures of 39 degrees Celsius for one day. Authorities have urged residents to take precautions against heat-related illnesses, including avoiding prolonged outdoor activity, staying hydrated, and limiting exposure during peak daytime temperatures. The warning system was introduced this year as South Korea faces increasingly frequent and intense heat waves linked to rising global temperatures. The 4-member crew of NASA's Artemis second mission has visited the European Space Agency headquarters in Noordwijk, the Netherlands, following their record-setting journey that pushed the boundaries of human space exploration. The mission achieved a new milestone by reaching a distance of 406,771 kilometers from Earth, marking the farthest point humans have traveled from the planet and drawing global attention. Artemis 2nd Commander Reed Wiseman said the visit was an opportunity to recognize the module's role in the crew's journey to lunar orbit. The Artemis 2nd mission is part of NASA's broader Artemis program, which aims to return humans to the moon and establish the foundation for future deep space exploration. Business news coming up next. For now, a short breather.
Global oil demand is forecast to grow by 780,000 barrels per day in 2026, according to a report released on Monday by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, which revised downwards its forecast from June. In its June report, OPEC had forecast global oil demand growth of 1 million barrels per day for 2026. Oil demand in non-OECD Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development countries is expected to take up the biggest share and grow by about 740 barrels per day in 2026. In 2027, global oil demand is estimated to rise by 1.94 million PVD, representing an upward revision of about 200,000 barrels per day from OPEC's June forecast. On the supply side, crude oil production by OPEC Plus countries increased by about 3 million PVD month-on-month in June to average 36.28 million PVD, the report says. However, major producer Saudi Arabia reported lower oil production in June compared with a month ago. South Korea's government will draft a record national budget of more than 800 trillion South Korean won, equivalent to $535 billion for 2027, driven by stronger than expected tax revenue and aimed at boosting long-term economic growth through strategic investments. The government said next year's national tax revenue is projected to exceed 500 trillion South Korean won, equivalent to $334 billion, well above the initial estimate of 412 trillion South Korean won, largely due to robust earnings from the semiconductor industry. President Lee Jae-myung said the additional revenue would be directed toward investments designed to strengthen the country's future competitiveness. Central to the plan is the creation of a future response fund financed by the additional tax receipts. The South Korean investment also pledged to improve the managed fiscal balance and reduce the pace of national debt growth beginning next year. A dozen of U.S. states have joined together to block the $110 billion merger between Warner Bros. And Paramount, claiming the largest media consolidation in Hollywood history would stifle competition and raise consumer prices. A lawsuit has been filed by 12 states, led by California, where Paramount and Warner Bros. Kept their headquarters and production studios. California Attorney General Rob Bonta claimed the merger would end up harming audiences on every sofa and movie theater seat in the United States. If it goes ahead, the new company would account for over a quarter of major film releases. Together with Disney, Universal and Sony, just four conglomerates would control 86% of the market.
And with that, we move on to sports update. As we enter the final week of the FIFA World Cup, the four remaining teams prepare for their high-stakes semi-finals. Can the two-time world champion France lift its third trophy, or the European champion Spain win the second World Cup? Though the first semi-final features two best teams in the world, only one of the two European giants will have a place in the final. Three European teams, Spain, France, England, and one South American team, Argentina, they are staking claim on the coveted trophy ahead of Tuesday and Wednesday's semi-finals. All four will play two more matches each, with the only question whether the second match will be the final or the third place playoff. Kylian Mbappe's France continues its quest for the World Cup title, facing Lamine Yamal's Spain in a blockbuster semi-final. Many are seeing the first semi-final at Dallas Stadium in Arlington, Texas, the United States, as the virtual final. Two-time world champion France is the front-runner to add another one to the tally, while the European champion Spain on the other side offering a prospect of the biggest match so far of the 2026 World Cup. History is within touching distance for France, that can become only the second European nation to play three successive World Cup finals after West Germany. But standing in France's way is a slick and sturdy Spain, the familiar foes with whom they share a storied rivalry. France topped Group I with a perfect record of 9 points, winning against Norway, Senegal and Iraq. They thrashed Sweden 3-0 in the round of 32 before beating a stubborn Paraguay side 1-0 in the last 16 and sailing into the semi-finals with a dominant 2-0 win over Morocco. Spain topped Group H with 7 points, beating Saudi Arabia and Uruguay and drawing with Cape Verde. It began the knockout campaign with a 3-0 thrashing of Austria in the round of 32 before beating Portugal 1-0 with a late goal in an Iberian football derby in the round of 16. Irrespective of the result, the first semi-final, scheduled for Wednesday morning Nepal Standard Time, is going to be the biggest match so far of the 2026 edition. Norwegian football fans gathered to welcome their national team home after their World Cup campaign ended with a dramatic 2-1 extra-time defeat to England in the quarter-finals. Despite the disappointment of the narrow loss, supporters greeted the players with cheers, applause and pride, celebrating the team's run to the final stages of the tournament. The warm reception turned the team's homecoming into a celebration of resilience, with fans showing that the journey mattered as much as the result on the pitch. Norway's players thanked supporters for their backing throughout the competition as the squad reflected on a memorable World Cup adventure that ended just short of a semi-final place. For many fans, the heartbreak of the extra-time defeat was softened by the chance to welcome their heroes home, proving that football victories are not only the moments worth celebrating. And now to the weather updates, first from Nepal and then around the world. Before wrapping up, here's a reminder of our top stories this hour. Kathmandu court sentences former ministers in refugee scam case. Raimaji gets 4-year prison term, Khan sentenced to 2 years. Child drowning deaths continue to rise during monsoon season. Calls grow for better safety at open construction and waterlogged sites. Nepal's hydropower output continues to increase. Weak grid forces hydropower plans to cut production. US-Iran tensions escalate after fresh strikes in Gulf region. Iran reports explosions near key ports as oil prices climb. Nepal enters quarterfinals of ACC Under-19 Women's Premier Cup with a third victory. Also posts its second highest Under-19 total. And European giants face off for final berth of the World Cup 2026. France and Spain meet in semi-final showdown. And that's it for this edition of News Hour here on NTV World. Do join us through our social media pages and also visit our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thanks for staying with us. Good night.